Story 1. My family favored my sister, taking her on a trip while leaving me behind. A stranger gave me $50,000 and revealed she was our biological mother. She thought about it for a few minutes before saying she wanted them to take her and two of her friends to Hawaii as a gift. My parents immediately agreed, and Alex rushed to her room to rejoice and inform her friends. While she was in her room, I asked my parents if I was going with them or not, because I wasn't sure. Usually, when we go on family vacations, they bring me along, but because this was a gift for Alex, I wasn't sure if my presence was essential or appreciated. She doesn't like me too much. I am fine with that. I'm not a fan of her either because, despite being twins, she is so different from me. She's spoiled and extremely insulting to everyone. Nobody who attended school with us liked her. Her gang of pals appear to think she's great, but I believe this is simply because they are similar to her. Anyway, when I asked my parents whether I'd be joining them, they had to think about it for a while. I knew right away that the answer would be negative, because if they had to think about it, it couldn't be because they wanted to take me with them. They presumably had already decided against it and were simply figuring out how to tell me. After a few seconds, my mother talked to me, saying that while this was a gift for Alex, it would be cruel to bring me there because it would simply be a family vacation. I pointed out the obvious that my parents were accompanying her, but they maintained they were only going because Alex wanted it, and they were confident that she would not want me there. Even they were aware that we did not get along very well. After that, I had nothing else to say and returned to my room. I just felt horrible for myself because while I haven't accomplished much academically, I believe a football scholarship is worth celebrating as well, but my parents didn't appear to care about me or my accomplishments. Furthermore, they agreed to leave me at home for the full week while they were away, allowing Alex to celebrate with her friends in Hawaii. I was miserable for a full day until I remembered that my family would be gone for a week, which meant I would have the house to myself and could do whatever I wanted. That made me feel less sad, and I resolved to make the best of the situation. While they were preparing for the trip, it felt as if everyone had entirely forgotten about me, which was not something I was used to, but it stung. On the day they were leaving, my parents instructed me to take good care of the house. At least they said farewell to me, but my sister didn't even look at me and laughed. None of this was unexpected behavior from her, so you can understand how horrible my relationship with her is. For the first several days, I just invited my pals around. We played computer games, ate junk food, and did anything we wanted from morning till dusk. When I had to go home, this was my plan for every day. On the final day, I planned to phone my pals and inform them that they were also free to come over that day. But at around 8 a.m., I heard the doorbell ring, which was far too early for my pals to arrive. I hadn't gotten up properly either because I'd been sleeping in late since I graduated from high school. I went downstairs and peeked outside the window to see who it was, and I was surprised to see my mother standing there. It took me a few minutes to remember that my mother was not present. She was in Hawaii with the rest of the family. This must be someone else. Then I observed some discrepancies. The woman standing at the door was much taller than my mother. She also looked younger, with blonde highlights in her hair. My mother despised that, so I concluded that this was not my mother, but rather someone who looked strangely similar to her. After some thought, I decided to unlock the door since if she looked like my mother, she must be a relative. When I opened the door, she introduced herself as my mother's cousin and said that she had been living in the United Kingdom for the past 20 years, so I had probably never seen her before. According to what I knew, my mother had no siblings and was an only child. This woman appeared to be only a few years younger than my mother, so I assumed she was a cousin. But having a cousin who looked so close to my mother was strange. I had never heard my mother talk about a cousin from the United Kingdom. Then again, I don't speak to my mother very often. I allowed her in, but I made it clear that my parents were not home because I was certain she had come to see them rather than me. To my astonishment, she said that was okay because she hadn't come to visit them. She had actually come to visit me and my sister. That was another surprise for me because I couldn't comprehend what Mom intended to do with me and my sister. Anyway, I had to tell her that I was the only person at home while my sister was abroad. When I said that, she looked unhappy and asked where the rest of them were. So I decided to be honest with her because her face suggested that she could be trusted, and I told her the truth. She, like most other people, was surprised to learn that my family had left me at home alone and had gone to Hawaii with my sister to celebrate her high school graduation, despite the fact that I had graduated at the same time. I tried to downplay how bad I felt since I didn't want her to think I was moaning. I didn't want my mother to scold me for telling her cousin about our family when they got back. She apologized and said she understood how I felt. So she offered to give me a gift. Then she brought out her checkbook from her purse and wrote me a check, but asked me to fill out the amount. This was the first time something like this had ever happened, and I was stunned. So I told her that I couldn't allow her to do that since I couldn't accept money from her. We debated that for a few minutes before she just stated that she would fill in the amount she wanted to give me. She wrote me a check for $50,000. I claimed that I couldn't accept that from her since it was an enormous sum, something I couldn't even fathom. But she said she wasn't going to hear it, so I had to accept it. Update 1. She stated it was the least she could do for me, and I'm still not sure what that means, but in the end, she had me accept the check. Then we talked about my family and how everyone else was doing, but I could sense she was distracted. She was clearly not listening to me. After about half an hour, she informed me she had to leave and hoped to see me again soon. After she left, I recognized it had been a strange meeting, and her behavior had been exceedingly odd. I also couldn't get the impression that she was lying about being my mother's cousin, because cousins don't look like one another, or perhaps they do sometimes. But I had the impression, and continue to have the impression, that my mother had a sister whom none of us are aware of. This is why she had to lie to me about being my mother's cousin. I know that's strange, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but that woman was just like my mother, and I could feel it. Now here's where I made a mistake. It was very reckless of me, but I was so distracted by that encounter with a woman that I forgot about the check. I left on the coffee table under a stack of letters from my parents that had arrived that week. Then my pals came over, and we had a little party with a few other people, so I entirely forgot about the check. The next morning, my family returned from Hawaii, and everyone was in a joyous mood except me, of course. My parents began searching through their mail a few minutes after they returned home, and they discovered the check near the bottom of the pile. I consider myself quite fortunate to have been standing right there and able to remove it from my father's hands as soon as he noticed it. But it was too late. He had already noticed it was a check intended to me and began asking a series of questions about it. I don't blame him for that, because if someone writes your son a $50,000 check, you should surely ask questions about it. After they found out about the check, I realized there was no use in hiding anything. So I told them about the woman who had visited our talk and how she had written me that check simply because she wanted to. I also informed them that I would deposit the check soon. One very odd thing happened while I was informing everyone about the visitor. I noticed my folks becoming quite frightened. I am not exaggerating when I say that the color actually disappeared from their faces. It was clear since they had returned from Hawaii, and now they seemed pale and sweating. I was about to ask my mother who this cousin from the UK was because I could tell they were both hiding something from us. But before I could accomplish anything, my brat sister completely sidetracked the topic. She can't live without making everything about herself. So she obviously chose that very moment to start fussing about how the check was addressed just to me. She stated I should have spoken with that aunt and asked her to make it out to both of us rather than just me. I informed her that this woman was aware of both of us and had specifically addressed the check to me. I then attempted to resume speaking with my dad, but all three of them began discussing the check instead. It was a blatant attempt to change the subject of the conversation, and it worked because my parents began encouraging my sister to argue with me, and she fell for the bait. Alex soon began yelling at me to attract my attention, claiming that this was really unjust and that I would have to split the money with her. That piqued my interest, and I told her there was no way on earth I was going to let it happen. She had already received her gift, a trip to Hawaii with her pals, which was exactly what she had requested. This was my present, so I had no obligation to share it with her, just as she had no obligation to share her trip to Hawaii with me. I felt it was a reasonable response, but my parents started egging her on, saying that since my aunt had gone to see us, she had clearly intended to give us both a gift. They claimed that I must have played the victim card in front of her, and that she wrote me the check out of sympathy, because I had cast the rest of my family as the criminals. Alex bought the story. To be honest, I didn't have to play the victim card because I was clearly a victim in this situation. I was the victim of a horrific family, and I'm not sure if the woman wrote the check out of sympathy, but it was addressed to me. Therefore, I was not going to share it with anyone. Obviously, this resulted in a heated argument, and my parents encouraged my sister to be even more delusional and entitled throughout the talk. Maybe she wasn't as perceptive as I was, but I could see that they were only attempting to divert our attention away from our aunt, and I was really angry because they were all acting so silly. My mother eventually warned me that if I refused to split the money with my sister, I would no longer be able to live with them. And that's when I completely lost it. I started yelling like a crazy person, which I generally try not to do because I don't want to be on the same level with my family, but I couldn't control myself. I assured them I knew my rights and that I was not going anywhere, nor would I share the money with her. To be honest, I'm not sure whether there are any laws to restrict this, but after my outburst, I'm confident they won't be coming after me anytime soon. I also dubbed my parents the biggest liars since I knew they were hiding something from both of us, and I couldn't believe they were attempting to provoke us to fight so we'd forget about the visitor. Then I stormed up to my room to calm myself, flung a lot of stuff around, and eventually managed to bring myself under control. Since then, no one in the family has talked to me. Even during meal times, my mother brings me the food and then leaves without saying anything. I feel like a prisoner in my own home, and I wanted to run away last night. Alex is the only person who has said anything to me thus far, but she was only looking out for herself. She came into my room this morning and told me that all of this could have been prevented if I had simply agreed to split the money with her and quit bothering our parents about her aunt. She informed me that it was clear they didn't want to talk about it, and now I have just myself to blame for the hole I've dug myself. After saying that, she chuckled, and I thought she was the most selfish person I had ever met. But then I started thinking about a variety of things. Maybe I've been acting just like her. $50,000 is a large sum of money, and splitting it with her would have no negative consequences for me. But I just wanted it all for myself. I also believe I may have overanalyzed the incident with my aunt. However, their reaction was too suspicious to ignore. I feel as if I'm losing my mind right now. I just have so many conflicting emotions about everything that I have no idea what I'm upset about. So I really have to ask, do you think there was anything odd in my parents' reaction to learning that my aunt would be visiting? And more importantly, am I an a-hole for refusing to share the $50,000 with my sister? Update 2. Hello, everyone. First and foremost, thank you for all of your reactions and comments on my post. Never in my life did I expect that so many individuals would take the time to offer me advice on a circumstance like this. It's also nice to know that there are more folks like me out there, so thank you. I suppose I was a little scattered in my original post, but that was due to the circumstances. Anyway, I'm going to attempt to keep it short and sweet this time. So, first things first, I've decided to leave my parents' residence. I gave it some serious thinking. They want it, and I do too. I never left home because I believe it would be too much, but this time my parents have gone too far. I have never gotten along with them or my sister. I don't see the sense in staying with them any longer, so I've opted to live with a friend of mine till college starts. Update 3. When I describe a visitor who had come over during their absence, they went completely white, and now my sister is having a meltdown. My friend's parents graciously consented to let me live with them for free, despite my promise to pay rent. The bottom line is I'm leaving, and obviously, I'm keeping all of the money. All said and done, the check was made out to me and only me. I am not obligated to share that amount of money with anyone, least of all my sister. If they hadn't left me at home alone while they went on vacation, I probably wouldn't have met my aunt, let alone received so much money. So in some ways, they bear responsibility for this. She has never treated me with courtesy or respect, so expecting me to split the money with her right now is ridiculous. I am confident that my parents will always look after her. I can't claim the same thing for myself, so I clearly need the money more than she does. I'm not sure why I was thinking about splitting up with her or questioning whether I was doing the right thing. I guess I was overly emotional, but I've thought about it, and I don't have to feel bad about what I'm doing. They never have, and it's perfectly acceptable for me to act like them. It has been 3 days since my last post, and I have been packing everything up. Tomorrow afternoon, my friend's father will arrive with his pickup truck, and I will leave. I really cannot wait. Update 4. So much has changed in my life since my previous post. It's unbelievable to imagine that it was just 4 days ago. I'm not sure where to begin, but I suppose I should pick up where I left off. I stated that I was going to move out of my parents' house, and I did so the day after that post. My friend's father came to pick me up and helped me relocate all of my belongings. I obviously did not need to bring any furniture with me. It was simply a collection of crates. My parents witnessed everything that happened, but did not ask any questions. Alex did not bother to leave her room. She just came out once, saw what was going on, and went back inside. After we'd moved the last of the boxes, I was prepared to depart without saying goodbye since I knew no one cared. But before I could walk out the door, my mother stopped me and inquired where I thought I was going. So I informed her that no one in the family had spoken to me in the last few days, and everyone preferred to pretend that I did not exist. They didn't have to pretend any longer. They could be completely themselves around the house and forget about me in the actual sense because I was moving out. It shouldn't have surprised them because she had previously stated that if I didn't split the money with my sister, I would no longer be able to live in this house. Since I had opted not to share the money with anyone, I figured it was best for me to go on my own rather than get kicked out. My parents warned me that I was being silly and that my arrogance would wear off once I understood that $50,000 would not be enough to get by in the world alone. I just ignored it and walked away, and they didn't try to talk to me again. Interestingly, my friend's father was far more empathetic than my own parents. He assured me that everything would be okay throughout the drive to his residence. They put me up in a guest room, which is where I've been staying. My friend has always been a fantastic stand-up comedian, and his family is the reason why. They're all so kind and sweet, and looking at them makes me understand that this is how families should be. So I'm pleased to be staying with them until I depart for college. But that's not all that transpired in the last few days. I was also able to learn the truth about the visitor we had. I'm still battling to come to terms with it. I believe I said several times that the woman who had visited us looked strikingly similar to my mother, and I had already suspected that she might be a secret sister. I guess I was correct since she contacted me over social media last evening and told me a slew of stuff that I'm still not sure what to think about. Apparently, she is my mother's youngest sister, but she was kicked out of the family since she became pregnant while in college. Guess who her children are? Yes, it's us. Alex and I are her children. However, because Mom was only 19 and still in college, her parents compelled her to put us up for adoption. Around the same time, my parents began trying for a baby, but were having difficulty conceiving. After one family meeting, my mother chose to adopt her children. However, my parents only wanted one child, and it had to be a female. That's when my biological mother stood firm, stating that both of her children would be raised by the same parents. She wasn't going to separate us, and my grandparents persuaded my parents to adopt both of us. My birth mother paid frequent visits to both of us in the first few months after our adoption, but I believe my mother had had enough and told her parents that she wanted her to cease visiting. My mother argued that having two maternal figures as we grew up would be confusing and that she should remain away from our family until my mother was comfortable having her over. My grandparents agreed that my mother was correct, so they told my biological mother to stay away until my mother was ready to have a connection with us. That resulted in a major argument, and they didn't talk for several years. Finally, she contacted her parents at the beginning of this year, and I believe my grandparents had a change of heart, so they gave her our address, and she came to visit us. Both Alex and I are now 18. Therefore, she believed it would be the ideal moment to begin a relationship with us, and perhaps eventually she will be able to tell us the truth. But after meeting me and seeing how I was treated by my family, she realized she had made a mistake. She regretted allowing my mother to adopt her children, especially since it was clear to her that my mother just wanted to raise her daughter. So she did adopt both of us, but she only accepted Alex, not me. She felt accountable for this, so she contacted me and felt compelled to tell me the truth because no one else was going to. It's been several hours since then, and I still can't get over it. I have no idea what to think about it, and I have not told anyone, not even the friend I'm currently living with. Typing it out here helped me speak it aloud at least once, but I'm still not sure what to do with this information. I haven't responded to her message, but she knows I read it. I suppose it explained a lot of things, but God, I don't know how to feel anymore. I'm absolutely numb, puzzled, and lost. In any case, the world has not come to a halt as a result of this revelation, and I'll have to do something about it someday. I'm just not sure what, but I will figure something out. I'm confident that the comments here will be beneficial as well. Update 5. Hey, it's been 2 weeks since I received the mail from my aunt. To be honest, I'm not sure what to call her yet. She introduced herself as my aunt, but she has suddenly become my mother. Also, I have to admit that she is a better mother than the one who reared me. Anyway, I took my sweet time responding to her message, and I texted her back only 3 days ago. I informed her that there was a lot to talk, and that I would prefer to meet in person, but I was willing to have a relationship with her. I'd already lost the family I thought I had, so it couldn't harm to give her another chance. Everyone made mistakes, and she did so at the age of 19. I can't hold it against her. I haven't told Alex about it, yet since I don't believe it is my position to say anything. I believe her mother needs to tell her the truth immediately. Which mother is telling her the truth? I don't know. All I know is that in a few days, I'll be meeting with my biological mother to try to repair our relationship because she is back for good and she is not going anywhere. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I really hope everything goes well. Keeping my fingers crossed. Now on to the next story. Story 2. I was held in a Texas mental hospital for saying I didn't want to be pregnant. What should I do? A couple notes up front. I'm a first-time mom, and this was a planned and wanted pregnancy. I'm still trying to process the last 72 hours, which has caused me significant trauma and distress. I am writing this out publicly to warn other mothers. This happened in Texas. I am currently 9+1. I have been in the ER a couple times for severe 24/7 nausea, which is triggering significant panic attacks. The nausea is the worst at night and has been keeping me from sleeping, which makes my anxiety worse. Plus, I'm unable to keep down food and liquids. It's been seriously horrible. My first 2 ER doctors, women, were at separate ER locations and both gave me hydration. One gave me Zofran plus sugar, but then I had issues with the Zofran backing me up. I had another bad night of puking and panic attacks, and I called my mom in the morning crying because I was so miserable. She said she would go to a different ER with me, one that was a full hospital that had OBs on staff. When I got there, I explained the situation to a male ER doctor who spoke with me for less than 5 minutes. I told him my issues with waking up with nausea, then panic attacks, then sleeping. I told him that the panic attacks combined with everything scared me and made me not want to be pregnant anymore. But I made it clear to him I just wanted relief and had no plan on hurting myself or anyone else. He refused to give me any medication, not even in 4-bag to help with fluids. He sent a social worker to talk to me about the panic attacks and said she could find a facility that would take me, who could help with medication plus sleep, etc. I said okay because I was so desperate at that point and had been in the ER for hours with no help whatsoever. He never even called OB. I haven't seen mine yet at all. I haven't even had an ultrasound. I get sent to the new clinic, and by the time I get through processing, it's 3 a.m. and I'm crying because I'm having high anxiety and I haven't slept. They never gave me my nighttime medications or anything. I finally went to bed around 4 a.m., and then they woke me back up at 6 a.m. to do my vitals and said I needed to go itemize my belongings. Once I woke up, the nausea hit me immediately, and I asked for Zofran, which they refused because I had to see the internal medicine doctor first. I didn't get Zofran until 10:30 a.m., at which point I had missed breakfast and was nonstop puking. But the doctor would only allow one 4 milligrams pill every 12 hours. I was so sick. Eventually, I'm seen by a psychiatrist who I thought would be able to help me with meds, but he said, no, I can't take anything because I'm pregnant, and I'd have to talk to a different doctor who wasn't going to be in until Monday. This was on Saturday. At that point, I freak out because now I'm away from home. They aren't giving me my over-the-counter meds like Unisom plus B6 for nausea or my prenatals. and they're not giving me enough Zofran to keep the nausea at bay. I said I wanted to leave then, as I was there voluntarily, and the doctor was mad and said I'd have to sign an AMA form, and he placed me on a 24-hour hold where the other doctor would talk to me before the 24 hours and determine if they try to get a court order to keep me. I was so shocked. I asked if there was any way I could talk to someone, as if I didn't want to stay, and they were holding me involuntarily at that point. He said no. I'm a panicky, sick mess after this and go through all the paperwork they gave me, which included the Patient Bill of Rights, which stated patients had the right to be discharged within 4 hours of request unless the doctor believed I was a danger to myself or others, or that I was mentally unable to make medical decisions for myself. I requested a written justification from the doctor outlining which of those reasons he was using to justify the 24-hour hold, and he refused. He just kept saying I wasn't allowed to leave until I spoke with the other doctor, who wasn't going to be until the next day. At around 3:30, my mom and fiancé came for visitation, and I brought my paperwork with me and showed them the patient rights documents, and they were pissed. So they stayed 2.5 hours after visitation and argued with them to release me, so I could go home since they weren't even treating me anyway and withholding medications. The doctor refused to talk to my family, even though I specifically included them on my medical release forms. So they had a right to request that information and were requesting a justification for keeping me there past the 4 hours. It got so bad, my mom even called the cops and filed a police report. They refused to let me go, so I had to stay another night without Zofran and couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't keep food or water down. There was no doctor on staff at the time, so when the nurses called to get my Zofran prescription increased, the doctor didn't answer and they couldn't do anything for me. I could tell the nurses were trying their best and were very frustrated for me. The original doctor came back an hour before the 24 hours were up and clearly did not want to talk to me. I think the other doctor said he wasn't getting involved because it was turning into a legal situation at that point. He was super short with me, and when I requested justification for the 24-hour hold, he said the ER doctor said I didn't want to be pregnant anymore and used that as justification. I'm absolutely floored at this point. He didn't want to speak further about the issue and discharged me, but apparently no one knew how to discharge me because it's the weekend, so it took another few hours to even leave. The whole situation was so miserable, and I legitimately feel traumatized by the experience. I still feel like I need help with the nausea and panic attacks, but I'm scared to go back to the ER now. It's been so horrible, and I don't know what to do besides talk to my OB at my upcoming appointment and hope she's more understanding of my problems. I'm going to file complaints with the hospital and the state regarding what happened. I'm also going to consult with a few lawyers to see if I have a case against them. This whole experience has left me feeling incredibly hopeless and frustrated with the medical system. I feel like I was punished for saying I didn't want to be pregnant anymore. As for me, I am currently staying with my mom. I was able to finally get some rest and take enough Zofran and Unison Plus B6 to keep the puking at bay for a bit. I'm trying my best to keep my cool and avoid a panic attack. I appreciate any advice anyone could give on how to navigate this situation. Comments by OOP. I really wanted to move out of Texas before I got pregnant because I was so worried for those exact reasons. Doctors are too afraid to treat pregnant women here, and it's safer for them to do nothing, even if it's more detrimental to the mother and baby, than to prescribe something and be held legally liable if something were to happen. It's a horrible, horrible byproduct of the current abortion ban. It's really hard to convey just how traumatizing it was with only words. I was taken away from my supportive fiancé and family to be basically held prisoner and denied medication while I couldn't stop vomiting. I was around strangers, had paper-thin scrubs, and a small blanket. The vomiting caused my throat to burn, and I pulled a muscle in my neck, so it was hard to even move my head. I just cannot overstate how much worse this situation has become and the amount of physical and emotional damage it's caused. I genuinely felt so bad for the other patients there who clearly needed help. The doctor was so obviously uninterested and uncaring. It's hard for me to see how anyone there is getting the appropriate care level they need, or how being there would make anyone less suicidal. It seems like the hospital is there to fill beds and extract as much money out of insurance as possible, while running a skeleton crew of workers who provide the minimum legal requirement of care. I will say the nurses there were great, but the facility and doctors themselves were an actual nightmare. Thank you. My mom is actually a retired police officer and works in records at a neighboring police department here, and she told them the same thing. They became very clammy, and I think realized the situation was turning into a legal one and stopped really communicating with me or my family beyond what was absolutely required. I do agree with you fully. I'm going to see what my OB does and says at my appointment tomorrow, then go from there. I am scared and nervous. It's hard at the moment because I also feel too weak to even advocate for myself properly. I'm too exhausted to fight at the moment, so I'm hoping my support system will help me get through this and be tough for me. I will eventually come forward with my story. I really want to speak with a lawyer first and make sure all my ducks are in a row. I am also a semi-notable person in a niche field and am not public with my pregnancy and take my privacy very seriously. One of the nurses at the hospital even recognized me, which was also horrible in its own way. I'm sorry you also had to experience that. At one point, I was laying on the bathroom floor wondering if I was going to die there. I was worried they were going to take me to court and force me to stay there longer without treatment and without my family. I'm not sure how I will eventually recover from this, but I know I have no other option than forward, and things will eventually get better. If my fiancé and I have to empty our life savings to get me to another state for appropriate care, then we will do everything we can. That's the thing. If they had been providing me with medications and monitoring me, I would actually understand and probably wouldn't have left. But they weren't providing me with any treatment. I was having active panic attacks, and I didn't even get a, hey, try these breathing exercises. They were just holding me hostage and denying me care. That's not true. There are plenty of medications that treat anxiety that are safe during pregnancy. Having constant panic attacks and not being able to keep down food or water is not safe for pregnancy or the baby either. You have to weigh the risks of each decision you make. I also suffer from ulcerative colitis, which is triggered by stress. I am off my UC medication because it's not safe during pregnancy. I almost lost my colon during my last flare, which lasted a year and a half, and I was on steroids for 7 months to help control the inflammation, which would absolutely not be safe for pregnancy. These conditions can quickly become life-threatening. I didn't request an ultrasound. I simply stated that I hadn't even had one yet. The reason I wanted to work with someone in OB was because it was clear the ER doctors were uncomfortable treating me because I was pregnant, and I thought an OB would be more knowledgeable in which medications are safest for pregnancy. Another reason I mentioned the ultrasound was because the reason for denying any medication was pregnancy. However, I wasn't even sure if the pregnancy was progressing correctly. It's my first pregnancy, and my mother has a history of missed miscarriages where the baby stops developing, but her body didn't start the physical process of expelling everything. Hopefully, that adds more context. I am not familiar with the medical system, and this is my first pregnancy, so I don't think it's unreasonable for me to think that maybe someone with more experience treating pregnant patients in a state with very tight restrictions would be a better fit for me at that moment. I personally think this is wildly unbelievable, but it happened to me. I have no prior history for psychiatric hospitalization. I take Buspir and Zoloft. I developed a panic disorder after being on prednisone for 7 months due to my ulcerative colitis, which was well managed before pregnancy. The constant vomiting triggers my anxiety, leading to panic attacks. To be clear, I was not involuntarily held. I went voluntarily because the social worker said they'd be able to help me with medication and sleep. The psych facility knew they had no reason to keep me, therefore could not obtain a court order. If they believed I was actually a danger to myself or others, then they would have gone this route, but they didn't. My nurse there said he believed I did not belong there. He even told my family that and fought to get me released. I understand you're making a judgment based on your experience and knowledge, but I hope you could put yourself in my shoes as someone with very limited knowledge of the medical system and going through my first pregnancy. Our thought processes and reasoning are probably going to be vastly different. I did what I thought was the best thing to do in my situation, and it turned into a nightmare. I'm sorry if my story isn't believable to you, but I'm still going to do what I can to make sure this type of thing doesn't happen again in the future. And to be clear, The reason I went to different ERs was because the first one was a standalone private ER, like a care point or something, and the ER doctor recommended going one with an OB attached next time. So the next time I went to an ER, I went to an ER hospital that I mistakenly thought was a full hospital, but it was some type of hybrid situation. I am not originally from Texas, so I'm not familiar with the hospitals around here. The next one I went to was an ER at a full hospital. To add more context, they had asked me if I had a history of panic attacks, and I explained that I did. I had developed a panic disorder after being on prednisone for 7 months due to my ulcerative colitis. They asked what I would do in those situations to avoid triggers, etc. Before, my panic attacks were focused mainly on social situations or being too far from a bathroom, etc. So to avoid triggers, I do things like change my diet or avoid situations where there was no bathroom. But now my trigger was the pregnancy symptoms, which I can't avoid because I can't not be pregnant anymore. I said the panic attacks and nausea made me not want to be pregnant, which I believe was misconstrued. But I think there's some pretty crazy implications of saying any pregnant woman who says they don't want to be pregnant anymore can be held involuntarily at a psychiatric hospital. Honestly, I would have been more than happy to stay there, but because I wasn't really being given any further treatment, I just wanted to go home to my family and support system. If I was going to be vomiting, I prefer to do it in my own toilet. I was also worried about missing my appointment if they decided to hold me longer. The original ER doctor did not have enough to send me there involuntarily, and the psych at the facility openly admitted he believed the ER doctor misled me and was the one to tell me to fill out the AMA but place me on a 24-hour hold because it was their policy, which I had pointed out contradicted Texas state law for patients who were there voluntarily. This facility has been open for only 10 months or so, and one nurse said it's very rare that someone would come there voluntarily, but then request to leave so quickly. But I think a lot of those voluntary patients have been through that system before, so they know what to expect versus I had no clue. When I pointed out the 4-hour release requirement in the documents they gave me, they didn't even know that it was in there. They said all patients get a 24-hour hold, and they've never released someone within 4 hours. I meet with my OB tomorrow, so hopefully I'll get some better support there. Thanks for listening. It's so scary. One girl at the facility I spoke to had been there 3 times for suicidal thoughts. She said she believed the facility wasn't supportive for patients who have disabilities or are pregnant. She said one time her roommate had dementia and was clearly not taking care of her hygiene or self at all, and the girl tried to advocate for the woman, but the woman received no help. The facility is new, open for only about 10 months, and I think they're accepting anyone to fill beds, even if they aren't properly equipped to care for them. I think a lot of these people don't have the wherewithal or the family support to advocate for them either, so nothing ever gets done and no one is held accountable. It's a nightmare situation and has been incredibly eye-opening. The social worker said that they were originally going to try to get me into one of the private rooms that they had at the hospital, but came back later and said the psychiatrist, I assume, denied me. So she said she was going to call some other places and see if she could get me into one of them. Maybe 2 hours later, she came back and said she found a place who would accept me. This new place was indeed a locked facility. They have only been open for 10 months and seem to be accepting everyone. There were 2 other individuals who were admitted at the same time from the same hospital. One, I believe, was there for alcohol withdrawal, and the other expressed thoughts of suicide. The first ER doctor just seemed really busy and didn't want to deal with me. Then the psych at the facility was just the on-call doctor and clearly didn't want to be there and kept saying he couldn't release me until I spoke with the attending who wasn't there because it was the weekend. I don't think they've ever had anyone challenge them on the 4-hour rule, as the place has only been open for 10 months. I was in a locked psychiatric hospital. No, you cannot just get up and walk out. Update 1. First, I'd like to say thank you for the outpouring of support. It really means a lot to me. I'm going to start with a very small update, and then at the end, I'm going to answer some questions and clear up some misconceptions about what happened. Update 2. I did see my new OBGYN and have my first ultrasound. My little guy is measuring right on time and has a heartbeat of 167. I feel overwhelmed with relief knowing he is safe there and doing well. I explained the whole situation to my OB, and she was incredibly understanding. She gave me a new prescription of Zofran and took some labs while I was there to check my electrolytes, and probably some other things. I'll have another follow-up with her soon. At this point, I feel comfortable enough working with her, so that's my current plan. As for complaints and legal stuff, there isn't much movement on that front due to the holiday, but I still have every intention to pursue those options, and will try to update as much as I can. Now, the other stuff, I did not expect that post to gain as much attention as it did. It was cross-posted many times, and the responses were overwhelmingly sympathetic, but there was a ton of skepticism, especially from doctors who read it. But hey, it's the internet, so that's to be expected, I guess. At the end of the day, I don't need any strangers online to believe what happened to me, because I have recourse in real life, and that's ultimately what matters. I was accused of changing my story, but I think that was mainly from people who skimmed my post. So below, I'm going to clear up something and provide some additional details. Not because I have to, but because I think if there's going to be discourse about my experience, I wanted to start from a place of accuracy of timeline and events. Starting with, at no point was the court involved with the decision-making process. I went to the ER willingly. They made it seem like they were not equipped to help my situation and that the other facility would be able to help me with my sleeping and panic attacks. I was so run down by the time the social worker came to my room that I'd have agreed to go anywhere they said would provide me with relief. I went to the new facility voluntarily, of my own free will. There was number 72-hour hold. When I mentioned 72 hours in my last post, I meant that the whole situation from going to the ER to leaving the new facility took place over 72 hours. Once I got to the new facility and met with the doctors, I realized that I was not in the right place to get the care I personally needed. I was away from my support system, not being given the proper medication to control my vomiting. My anxiety was significantly heightened, and I was not being given any additional treatment or resources. So to me, there was no point in me being at the facility, and it was indeed making my situation undoubtedly worse. After speaking with the on-call psychiatrist, he told me that he thought the ER doctor misled me and that I'd need to sign an AMA form, which would place me on a 24-hour hold. It was clear he did not want to be the one to discharge me and insisted I needed to speak with the attending. He mentioned the possibility of a court order, but said it was unlikely they'd get one for my case. After that conversation, I went to review the paperwork they gave me during admission. I found the Patient Bill of Rights, which stated that for voluntary patients, they had a right to be released within 4 hours of their request unless 1. I changed my mind and wanted to stay. 2. I was under the age of 16 and my guardian didn't want to release me. 3. If the doctor has reason to believe that I might meet the criteria for court-ordered services or emergency detention because A. I'm likely to cause serious harm to myself. B. I'm likely to cause serious harm to others. C. My condition will continue to deteriorate, and I am unable to make informed decisions as to whether or not to stay for treatment. After I read that, I brought the papers to the nurses and requested a justification from the psychiatrist for the 24-hour hold. I wanted to know which reasons he was using. The psychiatrist did not provide reason or justification beyond the attending needed to evaluate me. That's it. To be clear, this is illegal. They had zero reason to keep me past the 4 hours. At no time had I indicated I was a threat to myself or others, not verbally or written on any of the questionnaires that I had filled out during admissions. The attending working that day is not a legal justification to hold me. Their schedule does not supersede my rights as a patient. Now, after the 24 hours was up, the original on-call doctor came back to discharge me. He was clearly agitated that the attending refused to come in to do the discharge, so I never at any point spoke with the attending who was originally assigned to me. The on-call doctor did not seek a court order to detain me. The conversation lasted about 10 minutes or less. When I asked again for the justification to keep me, he asked me if I said anything to the ER doctor about wanting to end my pregnancy, and I told him I just said I didn't want to be pregnant because I was so miserable. I then tried to ask if he believed that was enough justification for the hold, but he cut me off. It was clear he didn't want to engage in any further conversation. My concern here was the implications of legally being allowed to involuntarily commit any woman who said she didn't want to be pregnant anymore, which seems insane to me, but I digress. To answer questions about the facility, why didn't I just leave? Because this was a locked facility. I couldn't just get up and walk out of the door. How were they able to take me so fast? This facility has been open only for 10 months. They had beds and empty rooms available when I was there. Questions about my ER visits. I had 3 separate visits, which took place over 4 weeks. The first ER I went to was a standalone clinic, not associated with a larger hospital. The doctor there said, next time to go to an ER attached to a hospital with L&D. So the next time I went to an ER, I went to an ER hospital that I mistakenly thought was a full hospital, but it was a hybrid and they did not have L&D. The third ER was attached to a full hospital. I was not doctor shopping. I'm just not familiar with the hospital systems here. Regarding my comments about ultrasounds and OBs, I never requested an ultrasound during any of my visits to the ER. I mentioned the ultrasound in the original post just to state I hadn't had one yet and hadn't been evaluated by an OB yet. My mother has a history of missed miscarriages, so in my head, I thought it could be a possibility, and if I was being denied medication for being pregnant, I was just hoping I did have a viable pregnancy. But again, I didn't request an ultrasound. Concerns regarding DIY abortion. I am not and have never considered a DIY abortion. I am lucky enough to have all the resources I would need to fly anywhere in the world to get appropriate medical care if I had decided to go that route. Both my fiancé and I work high-paying remote tech jobs, and in the worst case, we could move out of state tomorrow if I absolutely needed to. Obviously, this isn't an ideal route, but it is an option that is still on the table, even if it's just to get care in a better medical system outside the state of Texas. Medications I'm currently taking: 10 milligrams buspirone twice a day, 50 milligrams Zoloft, Zofran, Unison Plus B6, prenatals, no benzos. So to cut through all the BS, whether you agree or not with the doctor's course of actions, I hope most people can see that the facility was not the right place for me to be. They were not well equipped to handle my pregnancy symptoms, they were clearly understaffed, and they were not providing me with any additional treatment that I wasn't getting at home. There was no reason for me to be there. It made things in my case significantly worse, and I hope maybe if anything, people can just learn from my experience. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for their support and for the DMs I received. I'm also so sorry for all the other similar stories I've read. It seems like there's a bigger issue happening here, and I hope others can eventually find peace too. I'm going to continue to work diligently with my OB, psychiatrist, and hopefully a therapist so I can really unpack this entire situation. As I said before, I'll try to update as much as I can, but I'm sure the complaint and legal process will be slow-moving. I'd also like to ask if you know any attorneys in the DFW area who may be interested in this case. Please feel free to shoot me a private DM with their information so I can follow up. I will also try to answer any additional questions in the comments in case there's anything else I'm forgetting. Obligatory sorry for the terrible formatting. I'm on mobile. Now on to the next story. Story 3. I'm tired of my ex-husband's wife wanting to be friends with me just because he cheated on both of us. I don't understand why I'm in this situation, and honestly, I'm frustrated because even my own family tells me I'm the bad one here. I just need to vent, and I don't need any advice or somebody telling me, do this, I think you should tell her this, or I would write her this. More than 17 years ago, my ex-husband cheated on me with a woman I didn't know, but she knew me. He left me for her. Our only daughter was a baby, and I just moved on with my life. I'm never going to fight for a man who makes immature decisions without first thinking about the consequences. He married that woman. I went on with my life, preferring to have healthy co-parenting for my daughter. He never showed remorse, and he had even told me that ours was always a mistake and that woman was the love of his life. That helped me to realize that he's a total dick, and I don't need a man like that in my life. Now he cheated on her, and for some reason, this woman, who always had a really cold and distant relationship with me, is insisting on trying to talk with me every day. I found out about the infidelity from my daughter, who wasn't affected by that, so I didn't think too much about it. The only thing that worried me was to know if he was going to be able to continue having our daughter at his house on weekends, as always. But his wife started sending me messages explaining what happened when I never asked her that. In the past, I only spoke to her if her husband didn't answer my text to ask something about my daughter. It's obvious that she needs to talk about it. It doesn't matter if I answer dryly because she sends me long audios talking about it anyway. I mean, I understand that she needs to talk about her husband's infidelity and blah, but why me? I don't want to be rude, but I don't care how she or he feels. In one of her audios, she says, "You know how I feel now." Like, I guess, but that was 17 years ago. It's not the same. And if I'm being 100% honest, she can't compare herself to me at all. A woman who has just given birth, to whom her husband tells her that he has been cheating on her for a long time with another woman who is not boring in bed and does know how to value him, versus a woman who always knew that her husband is unfaithful and decided to marry him anyway. Anyway, I've tried to ignore her as much as I can, but even when I talk to my family or friend about this, almost all of them told me things like, "Oh, but she must feel lonely, but she wasn't to blame for being the other one. I think you should be more empathetic. We all need someone to talk to," or my favorite one, "She's not to blame for him being a cheater. You should understand her because she needs help." I understand that she is not to blame and he's the cheater, but she, a totally adult woman at that time, decided to marry a man she knew was sleeping with her while his wife was pregnant. So why should I now carry the weight of helping her when she never helped me by telling me, "Hey, your husband slept with me, and that's really shitty because he's married to you," or "That's what I do if a married man flirts with me"? Now, if she didn't do any of that, then why is it my duty as a feminist to force myself to be her friend? It doesn't make sense, and the worst thing is that almost all the women around me tell me that I should help her and be her ear when I don't want to feel empathy for her or for him. I think she and he knew very well what they were getting into. I don't understand why I should be her free therapist now. Being cheated on is not my whole personality. I don't need to talk about that 24/7 with her. I just chose to ignore her, and that's what I'm going to continue doing because I just don't care how she feels, even if I'm a bad feminist for not feeling empathy. Sorry, my first language is Spanish, and I wrote everything pretty annoyed. Edit. No, I can't block her because she's still living with him, and I need to have her contact me in case of an emergency with my daughter. And honestly, it's weird to have so many comments and even private messages from people wanting to tell me what I should send to her, and even writing what I feel. I'm sorry, but there's no way I'm going to use the message of a stranger who doesn't know how I feel or the whole situation to say something to someone. I feel like a lot of people in the comments are reflecting their own traumas. Update. Hi, it's been a while since I posted, and I just wanted to give a little update for people who are worried. First of all, my mother was a lover for a long time when I was a teenager. Plus, during my adulthood, their relationship lasted long years until he died. I think his wife never found out about his affair. That's why my mom manipulates me so much into not judging my ex's wife, because no one chooses who to fall in love with. My mother always reflected herself on that woman, and that's why she said that my ex-husband and his lover, now wife, are soulmates, and I shouldn't get in the way. I was very young at the time. I could only lean on my mother for a little support, and well, narcissists always catch vulnerable people. Nowadays, I don't have much contact with her, but my daughter spends time with my family. About my friends, well, I am a feminist activist, and opinions regarding lovers are divided because most of them are on the liberal side. Most of the time, it's seen as something misogynistic to judge them because they're single women and the man is the one we should blame. Plus, we need to be soras with other girls, so I expected that reaction from most of them. I agree with that in most cases, but not in this one. I can feel empathy when the woman did not know or when she's a minor being groomed. But in this case, I do not feel any pity because she knew well what she was doing. Women can also be mean and cruel. Women can also choose to be the bad guys in the story without someone manipulating us because we are not weak. And my ex's wife is that kind of woman. No one manipulated her into doing anything. I'm sorry that explanation was perhaps unnecessary, but there were people who didn't understand my family's and friends' behavior, and honestly, it feels good to vent. I have spoken with my ex's wife, because honestly, a few days ago, I had a really stressful day, and the last thing I needed was to see her messages in my WhatsApp, so I just exploded. I planned to continue ignoring her, but that day I was upset about things about my work, and I ended up telling her everything. I sent her an audio telling her that I'm not interested in her life or in the fact she's suffering. I told her that I am not her friend, nor am I interested in being one. She never asked me for forgiveness, and now she expects me to start the group of women cheated on by my ex. I told her other things, and I would love to be able to post videos here. I told her that she knew very well what she got herself into. She knew well that my ex was capable of cheating on the mother of his baby, but she still decided to marry him and live the stupid fantasy that she could change him and that she was different from all the other women he was with. God, I hate long audios, but it was plus 5 whole minutes telling her that her situation and mine are nothing alike. I think that was my greatest catharsis. She got upset, and we started arguing. It was quite tiring, and the last thing I want is to have problems after 17 years of having normal co-parenting. I know they're not going to get divorced, and that means I will have to live with her in my life forever. So I sent a message to my ex, resending him one of the audios she sent me. I took the work to listen to them all, and she never apologized to me. I don't need her apologies, by the way. I don't care, but some comments asked me about that. They were just audios complaining and wanting us both to speak badly about him or wanting to have me as her free therapist. I told my ex to tell his wife to calm down and pay for a psychologist. He apologized to me and told me that they are both working on the marriage. So they're at the stage where she still feels angry and insecure with him. Like, yes, obviously idiot. So since I suffer the same, no, it's not the same. She felt that we could share the pain. He told me that they both started going to the online conferences of I don't know what couple who teach how to get over an infidelity. Sometimes I feel envious of people who can scam others so easily. Anyway, I told him that I'm not friends with her and that this affects our co-parenting, so he should put a stop to her if she doesn't understand what I say. In the end, he reluctantly told me he was going to talk to her, and I've gone 3 days without any message from her, except today one where she just told me that my daughter was sleeping there. So I guess it worked. I don't care if they live a happy or miserable marriage. I don't care if she's happy knowing that he cheated on her, but stays with him anyways. I just want to live in peace without getting into trouble with people who at plus 40 years old are still living mentally in high school. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-hubby's mistress's family to take the baby, or I'll call Child Protective Services cause he had a heart attack and can't care for anyone? May 30th, 2024. I'm a 53-year-old woman, and my soon-to-be ex-husband, Roger, who is 47, came home with a baby 4 months ago. Despite forgiving him for his affair, his 22-year-old girlfriend couldn't handle the responsibility anymore and left the baby with him at his workplace before leaving for Spain. As far as he knows, I allowed him to stay so long as I didn't have to do anything. I made it clear from the beginning that I had no intention of becoming involved in caring for this child, as my own children are grown, and I have no desire to raise another. Well, about a month ago, Roger had a heart attack. It didn't kill him, more's the pity, but he is now very weak and incapable of doing anything for himself. Since he isn't up and about, he cannot care for his child. He also cannot drop off and pick up his son at daycare. This added a tremendous amount of strain to an already tense situation. I have been helping, but I'm done. My kids are full grown, and I shouldn't be having grandkids anytime soon. I do not have any desire to care for a baby, especially one that is a constant reminder of my husband's infidelity. The burden of childcare was never something I signed up for, and I feel it's unfair to expect me to shoulder this responsibility. I told Roger that I want a divorce, and I contacted the child's maternal grandparents. I know the father through friends. I said they had until Friday to come get their grandchild, or I would call Child Protective Services, CPS. I felt this was the best course of action for everyone involved, especially the child, who deserves a stable environment. They just left with the baby, but they scolded me for being so cold towards a baby that had done me no harm. I view that child differently. To me, the child represents a painful chapter in my life and a betrayal that I am still trying to process. Roger is recovering, and I will be moving out. The house is in his name, but I have never contributed to it financially. I have the equivalent of 22 years of rent and interest put away as per our prenuptial agreement. My savings are my own. I have been diligent in protecting my financial independence, and I intend to move forward with my life without relying on anything from this marriage. I work and don't need anything out of this marriage except myself. My kids tried telling me to stay and help their father. I said that they were welcome to come over and help him with cleaning himself and the baby. Both declined what I felt was a fair offer. I found it hypocritical that they expected me to take on this role while they themselves were unwilling to do so. I do not feel that I'm acting badly. However, Roger, our children, his child's family, and a few mutual friends think I am. They seem to believe that I should stay and continue to support Roger through his recovery and help with the baby. But I believe I have the right to prioritize my own well-being and mental health. Perhaps writing this out and seeing the responses will give me clarity. I am hoping that by sharing my story, I can gain a better understanding of my actions and whether I'm justified in my decisions. This has been an incredibly difficult time, and I am doing my best to navigate through it with integrity and self-respect. Relevant comments. Commenter, not the A. That child was not your responsibility. Yes, it was innocent, but you're literally not responsible for raising it. You should have divorced Roger long ago. OP. And God forbid something happens, I literally cannot make any decisions regarding medical care or anything. Commenter, fake. Not the A, serious? The child is only 4 months old, so there's no way you could have forgiven such a deep betrayal if you've been married for decades. The house is rightfully yours, so make sure you get what you're owed. OP. I think the baby is almost a year old. The house was a premarital asset on our prenup. Commenter, I read over all of these comments. OP. Returning the child to blood relatives who can care for it is not the A on your part. However, don't be the A to yourself and give up your house without first seeing an attorney to make sure you don't have a claim to any equity or retirement funds you may have. Don't leave without obtaining everything that is rightfully yours. You mentioned having savings for 22 years. That isn't enough for a lifetime. You may require more, so make sure to acquire it before you leave. OP, I have a little over $1 million in investments. I'll be fine. You paid for everything. I kept all my money. This comment was downvoted, but OP's reply made me laugh. Commenter, women these days are cold as. OP, I can't forward your info if you are volunteering to take over. Update 2, June 26th, 2024. Almost 1 month later, I am no longer divorcing Roger. Sadly, due to complications from his heart attack, he has passed away. This leaves me feeling very conflicted. On one hand, he was the love of my life, but on the other, he was a cheating piece of trash. To the best of my knowledge, the child's mother will not return from Europe. Currently, the child is staying with her parents. They reached out to me, asking what I thought should be done. I recommended putting the child up for adoption, though I made it clear that I did not mean I would adopt the child myself. This suggestion was not well received by the grandparents or by my own children. My children accused me of being cold and cruel. They insisted that I should take responsibility, despite the child being related to them and not to me. I countered by suggesting that they, as blood relatives, should step up and take care of the child. However, neither of my children accepted this idea either. As the sole beneficiary of Roger's estate, I anticipate that lawyers will become involved to arrange some sort of financial support for the child. I am willing to comply with whatever the court orders, but I will only pay from Roger's estate and not from my own personal funds. This entire situation has been incredibly taxing, and I have been accused of being heartless. However, I believe I have a right to set boundaries and protect my own well-being. Roger's actions have left a lasting impact, and I'm simply trying to navigate the aftermath as best as I can. Ultimately, I am committed to following through with whatever legal obligations arise, but I do not see it as my responsibility to personally care for a child who is not mine. I hope that by sharing this story and seeking advice, I can gain some clarity and perhaps some understanding of my actions and decisions. That is all I have to say on this matter. Relevant comments. Ages of OP's kids. They are adults. To a now deleted comment. I found out about the affair over a year ago. Nothing about this is convenient. Commenter. Downvoted, so apparently the affair wasn't that much of a problem, as you said you forgave him for that, but after he has a heart attack, you decide to divorce him? It just doesn't add up. OP, I was not responsible for the child. Commenter, true, that doesn't explain the divorce. I mean, you can divorce for whatever reason. You do you. To me, however, infidelity seems like a better reason to divorce than having a heart attack. OP, I was not to care for the child at all. It was all on Roger. Can you explain how a better-than man was to care for an infant? Commenter: I agree you have zero responsibility to the child. However, if your kids did adopt, how would you feel about that? As the baby would then be your grandchild? Opie: adopted grandchildren are great. To another new grandchild, I would do my best to treat them as such. Commenter: downvoted Rogers may have omitted the child due to the child not being around when it was written. The child should inherit a portion. The child should be eligible for Social Security survivor benefits. Baby needs a lawyer ASAP. Opie: Rogers also omitted his 2 adult children. Commenter: downvoted, you are evil. You wished him dead. Now he is. I hope you at least feel a little remorse for what you said. Opie: I don't. He broke me. To another commenter: we were getting divorced for a reason. Commenter: downvoted, 70% of the posts here are fake. Yeah, my husband just died, and I'm dealing with this child situation on top of it. Deciding to post on Reddit. Opie: the situation has been dealt with. I was asked by several people for an update. I have now fulfilled those requests. Opie responds to so many people telling her she needs to help the child. Why does anyone think I have the right to place the child with anyone besides family? I am not in any way related to this child, and the child is currently with their grandparents, blood relatives, notwithstanding in legal matters. Editor's note: to provide clarity, I've created a timeline based on the events described by the original poster, Opie. Opie discovered the affair a year ago, around May 2023. At that time, she forgave her husband. In January of this year, approximately 4 months before the original post, the baby was left with the husband who promised to take care of the child. The husband suffered a heart attack in April, about a month before the original post. Between May and June 2024, the husband passed away. Now on to the next story. Story 5. Sister's boyfriend mocked my wife over her best friend's death. My sister's boyfriend mocked my wife over her best friend's death. When my wife finally snapped and told him everyone in the family hates him, my sister demanded a public apology. For the backstory, I'm 36F and married to the love of my life, 36FK. We met when we were 17. She was out and proud, whilst I was still in the closet, so we didn't start dating until I came out at 21. We got married in 2019 and have an adopted 4-year-old son, Jack. This comes in relevant in a minute. My sister, 27F Sarah, has a long-term boyfriend, 28M Steve, who the family cannot stand. They've been together for 8 years, and the whole family has hated him from the first time we met him. He is rude, obnoxious, arrogant, and all in all, a crappy human being. He's also someone that likes to claim that he is just honest, but if someone is honest back to him, he flips out and sulks like a toddler. In fact, my toddler is better behaved than him. He isn't abusive to Sarah and doesn't direct these comments towards her. It's just the rest of us. He's actually a good partner to her and treats her well, which is his one redeeming quality. My dad and Kay hate him the most and will do anything to avoid him at family gatherings. Kay usually just ignores him and brushes off anything he says to her as she doesn't like conflict. However, there have been a few occasions that she has said something back, but it's usually said in a joking manner which amuses my dad to no end. My mom is a peacekeeper and will do anything to avoid drama, so she just changes the topic whenever he starts, but she and my grandparents all hate him just as much as the rest of us. Sarah is the only one that obviously doesn't hate him. Our son's birth mother, Tess, was Kay's best friend who sadly died in 2021. This was a real shock as she had an underlying heart condition that she didn't know about and simply went to sleep one night and never woke up. Jack had been left alone in his cot all day screaming for his mom before Kay got worried that Tess wasn't answering her texts and went to their house to see if she was okay. She found Jack in his cot and Tess in her bed. We adopted Jack as no one in Tess's family was in a position to take him in. We raise him as our own, but he knows who Tess is. Obviously, this is a very sensitive time for Kay as it was so traumatic for her and Jack. Now on what happened last weekend. It was the anniversary of Tess's death on Saturday. So Kay, Jack, and I went to visit her grave. Kay is always quiet after going to see her, and this time of year is especially hard for her. On Sunday, we had a family gathering at my parents' house. These happen every couple of months as just a catch-up for everyone. At first, nothing was out of the ordinary. Kay and my dad were off to the side talking as usual. Only I could see that Kay was obviously struggling. My dad and her went for a walk so she could clear her head. This is something they have done before, so nothing too unusual. However, Steve had an issue with this and asked why they had left and why he wasn't invited to walk with them. I explained that it was about Tess, and Kay just needed a minute. This wasn't good enough for Steve, though, and he said she should have gotten over it by now. At this, my granddad, who is naturally a very quiet guy, said that his best friend had died over 20 years ago, and he still had days where he missed him so much it hurt. You don't just get over something like that. Steve shut up at that. Kay and my dad got back, and she was in a much better mood. We all sat down at the table for our late lunch and started chatting. Everything was fine at first until Steve started trying to butt into Kay's conversation with my granddad. When it was obvious that they weren't going to include him, he very loudly stated, "This is because she's getting all the attention of everyone because her friend died 3 years ago. Get over it. We're all sick of hearing about it." The whole table went silent, and I took one look at Kay and knew she was about to go off on Steve. Only it didn't happen the way I thought. Rather than exploding at him, she looked at him very calmly and said that her and Granddad weren't talking about Tess. They were making plans to take him to the Christmas markets. But if you want to be a dick, then no problem. She then went on to say to him that everyone in the family hates him because he's a toxic narcissist, that whenever he can't come to a family gathering, the whole family is much happier, that there is a reason he has no friends, and that his own family can't stand to be around him. That reason is that he's rotten from the inside out, and that Tess may have only been on this planet for 32 years, but she made a bigger impact on people than he would if he lived until he was 150. That her funeral was rammed with people because she was so loved, whereas he'd be lucky if anyone other than Sarah was at his. After that, she got up and went to the back garden, and I followed her. A few minutes later, my dad came out and said that he'd told Sarah and Steve to leave. We went back inside, and Kay apologized to everyone and said she should have just kept her mouth shut. Everyone other than my mom told her what she had done was right, and it was about time someone told him. My dad then found it hilarious that the lesbian had been the one to tell him straight, which lightened the mood a lot. We spent the rest of the afternoon there before going to pick Jack up from Kay's mom's house, as she had had him overnight on Saturday for us. The reason I'm making this post is that yesterday I got a call from Sarah saying that her and Steve wanted an apology from Kay, or they weren't going to Christmas. When I reminded her that we wouldn't be at Christmas either, as it's our year to spend it with Kay's mom, so it made no difference to us, she got really upset saying that she wanted an apology because Kay was way out of line. I said she wasn't, and that I wouldn't even contemplate asking her to apologize because I agreed with everything she said, and so did everyone else there. She ended the call, and I just went back to work. Then today my dad called me and asked if Kay's mom would mind a few more for Christmas, as he was refusing to spend it with Steve, so he and my granddad needed somewhere else to go. Apparently, after Sarah had called me, she had called Mom and started ranting, and my mom had told my dad to get Kay to apologize, which he said no to, and they had an argument. And my dad has now decided that he's done with Steve, even if that affects his relationship with Sarah. He's not having it anymore. My mom wants Sarah there, and she won't go without Steve, so my dad is going somewhere else, and my granddad agreed with him. I texted Kay's mom, and she said they were welcome, so now my mom is furious and saying that my dad and Kay are ripping the family apart. So basically, this has turned into a show. Kay has said she will apologize if I want her to keep the peace, but I've told her no way. Everything she said was true. I just don't know where to go from here. And the people in my life all hate Steve that much that Kay could have physically attacked him, and they would all still think she is in the right. So that's why I'm asking internet strangers who might have had to deal with difficult family members, what can we do to get into a place where we could be around each other amicably? I'm struggling to see a way right now. Wow, didn't realize how long this got until I went to post it. Sorry about that. Comments where Opie has replied. Comment 1. For things to be peaceful, both parties need to want it. Kay did nothing wrong. I would never spend another moment with Steve. I would let Sarah know I love her and we see her anytime, anywhere, but I'll never see Steve again. If you have one guest that basically wants to shit on a holiday table, there is no path forward with them. OOP. If it was just Sarah upset, then I wouldn't care, but it's my mom. She tries so hard to keep the whole family together, and she is devastated by what's going on. If it wasn't for her, then Sarah could go take a running jump for all I care right now. Sarah, this is the issue, that Steve and Sarah don't see anything wrong in what he's done. It was just him being honest. I would be happier for her to apologize if Steve and Sarah had admitted that what he said was in the wrong as well. Without that, I'm being stubborn about it. My dad told Kay he will fall out with her if she apologizes, as she did nothing wrong. There was no screaming or shouting. She said it very calmly. I feel like I'm stuck between making my mom happy and doing what I believe to be right. Comment 2. My sister doesn't see anything wrong in what he says, as he's just being honest, but loses it when someone is honest back. I don't understand her anymore. Mom, take the high road and rise above it have been two of my mom's favorite things to say to us over the years. I just feel like enough is enough. He crossed a line this time that he can't come back from. I especially don't want my son around him when he's saying things like that about Tess. Comment 3. If I hear my mom say, take the high road one more time, I'm going to scream. I'm sick of the high road. I've been on it for 8 years. I'm happy on the low road now. Later that day, OOP. Well, I just found out that my granny and pa, my mom's parents, are going to my uncle's for Christmas, and Steve is not invited. So it looks like it's going to be just Mom, Sarah, and Steve for Christmas this year. How OOP feels about that? Vindicated, as my mom is like her parents. They're all peacekeepers, and if ever they have had enough, then it just shows that she's not just stepped over the line. He's ran right past it. Dobie, Mom, Kay's mom, has already told her that if she changes her mind, then she is welcome at her house, even if it's Christmas morning. She is more than welcome. Obviously, Steve and Sarah aren't invited at all, but it's good that my mom has the option at least. Later reflection. I have realized that he has been trying to target Kay and my dad's relationship, as they're very close. They have traveled all over the country visiting classic car shows together, which Steve has tried to get in on, but he doesn't know anything about cars, so there's no point in him going even if they did like him. I actually think he's been trying to push Kay and I out of the family so that he gets my dad to himself, even though my dad can't stand him. Update 1. November 20th, 2024. Hi, I know how much this community loves an update, so I thought I would give you one as things seem to be sorting themselves out, kind of. After I wrote my last post, a few things happened in the next couple of hours. First thing was that I spoke to my grandparents on my mom's side. They were there when this all happened, but they're like my mom and just constantly try to keep the peace. That's where she gets it from. They were supposed to be spending Christmas with my mom this year, but they changed their minds and decided to spend it with my uncle instead. They have made the decision to not be around Steve either, as he causes too much drama. They asked if they could come and see us and Jack on the 23rd before they head off to my uncle's, which I happily agreed to. This really surprised me, and it outright shocked my mom, as like I said. They're the biggest take the high road type people I've ever met, but even they'd had enough. The next thing that happened was my dad called to let me know that Steve and Sarah had now decided that they want Kay to make a public apology in front of the whole family and admit she was lying and that the family loved Steve. He was laughing as he told me this and called them delusional, so any small chance of a superficial apology went out the window. The third thing that happened was Jack getting home from after-school club with a recorder that I'm sorely tempted to shove up the teacher's backside. So all in all, it wasn't a great day. Through talking to people on here, I also realized that Steve has been trying to push Kay and I out of the family, organizing trips that he knows we wouldn't be able to go on. We wouldn't have gone on them anyway, as a weekend away with him sounds worse than a paper cut to the eyeball. And him constantly trying to get my dad away from Kay whenever we are all together. I think this is because he is jealous of Kay and Dad's relationship, as they're very close and go on trips to classic car shows several times a year together, usually with my granddad as well. Anyway, things went quiet for a few days until the weekend. Our town has a big Christmas fair that runs from November through December, and we always go to it with Mom, Dad, Granddad, Kay's mom. We decided to cheer my mom up a bit to go on Sunday, and then out for dinner after. My mom was told that if Sarah or Steve showed up, then we would all leave, and she promised they wouldn't be there. Things were a bit awkward at first, but settled after a while. At one point, Jack got my mom and dad to take him on the giant snow slide, and as my mom walked back over to us, she had tears in her eyes. I pulled her to one side to see what was going on, and she said that whilst waiting in line, Jack had said he was happy Uncle Steve wasn't here. When my mom asked why, he said that Uncle Steve was a bad man. My mom tried to say that he wasn't, but in typical stubborn 4-year-old fashion, he had argued and said he learned in school that people who say mean things all the time are bad people, and Uncle Steve said mean things all the time. So he was a bad man, and that he didn't like him. There had been a case of bullying in his class a few weeks ago, and the teacher had done a lesson on how wrong bullying is, so I think that's where this came from. This finally broke through to my mom. If even a 4-year-old can see what a horrible prick the man is, then she had to as well. She said that she felt stuck because she hated Steve and agreed with everything that Kay has said, but she loves Sarah and doesn't want to isolate her. I told her I would always be there for her, but I wasn't putting myself, Jack, or Kay through being around Steve again, and she needed to think about what she wants, not what I want or Dad, or Kay or Jack, or her parents, or Sarah or Steve, but what she wants. She went quiet and then said that Kay's mom had told her she was welcome at hers for Christmas if she wanted to, and that she could decide it on Christmas Day if she wanted. Kay's mom would save her a plate. We went back to the group, and a little while later I saw Mom and Kay's mom having a deep discussion whilst walking behind us. Neither will say what they talked about, but Mom seemed a bit happier after their talk. They have also been talking since, as yesterday my mom told me that she will be coming to Kay's mom's for Christmas, and they've been talking about going shopping together next week. When Mom told Sarah after calling me, Sarah predictably lost her mind and said that Mom was choosing us over her. My mom told her she was choosing to have a good Christmas rather than being belittled and made miserable all for the sake of Steve and his so-called honesty. Sarah then called me and asked if I was happy that I'd won. She then did the unforgivable and used a few homophobic slurs towards me and Kay and called Jack the bastard of Beach. I ended the call, blocked her everywhere, and then let my family know what had happened and that I never wanted to speak to her again. They're all as appalled as I am. My granny, Mom's mom, called Sarah and apparently told her she was dead to her, as she won't have a Beach in the family. Sarah has been trying to reach out to apologize because she knows she has stepped over the unforgivable line, but I've just kept blocking the fake accounts that she's making. Even Steve tried reaching out to my dad after this, and when he eventually answered, Steve tried to say that Sarah was just angry and didn't mean it. According to Mom, Dad ended up giving him a verbal lashing and told him that he was the worst thing that had ever happened to Sarah in our family. My dad has told Sarah he is disgusted with her, but will be there for her if she leaves Steve. Until then, good luck. Mom has gone low contact as well, but wants to keep the door open so that Sarah isn't completely isolated. I had a few people saying that Steve may be abusive towards Sarah, but I really don't think he is. He usually acts like a dick when the attention isn't on him. He knows that when he says dickish things, then all the attention is on him, and he revels in it. After Sarah's outburst, I just think that they're both toxic and feed off each other's toxicity. She lets him get away with the things he says because she gets pleasure out of watching us all bite our tongues and keep quiet. So Mom's angry, Dad's angry, our 3 grandparents are angry, extended family are angry, and Kay is being my rock, but I could tell she's really angry about what she said towards Jack. I'm just sad and done with it all. At least now I know what she really thinks about Jack, Kay, and myself, so there's that. Not the perfect update, but we move on. It will be nice this Christmas to have both sides of the family together for the first time and not have to worry about Steve being a dick, but I'm sad that is how my relationship with my sister has ended. I'm trying to get into the Christmas spirit, but it's a tough one right now. The only things that are making me smile are Kay and Jack being goofy idiots to cheer me up. However, the recorder can go to hell. I curse whoever invented the thing, like seriously. You. Thanks for all the support in my original post and opening my eyes to a few things. Maybe internet strangers are the way to go for advice, after all. Hope you all have a good Christmas/holidays. Now on to the next story. Story 6. Caught my SIL secretly dating my stalker ex in my own home while she neglected my son. So I sent proof to the whole family. They've cut her off, and now she's homeless. Hey guys, so I did something, and I need to know if I messed up or not because this has had a very bad impact on my sister-in-law's life, and I'm being held responsible for it. So, my sister-in-law, Jennifer, fake name 22F, has been living with me for the past 3 weeks, and it's been fine. We haven't faced any issues as such. She's a nice girl. I have always liked her, and we got along well in the past. I am 30, and so is my husband. We met in college and got married 7 years ago after dating through college, and we got married soon after. We also have a 4-year-old son, Terry. My husband has been living away from home for most of the week because of his work, and he only comes back on the weekends. I also have to work through the week, so it's been lucky that Jennifer has moved in with us because we don't have to spend any money on a sitter. Terry doesn't start kindergarten until next year, and so far, we've been able to avoid sending him to daycare and babysitters because my parents were always ready to take care of him, and my in-laws were too. But we wanted to cut them some slack since they are also getting old, so we thought having Jennifer with us would be a good idea for everyone. Jennifer could have lived with her parents, but my husband thought it would be a good idea for her to live with us because she would get her own personal space with us since my in-laws were kind of overbearing. She works from home, so she can keep an eye on our son, and it has been a good arrangement for us so far. She has been living with us because she's just starting out at her job, and her salary is kind of on the lower side because she's working in a brand new company, and they're starting out as well, so she can't exactly afford rent right now. Which is why my husband told her that she could move in with us because it was fine with me as well, and the fact that she was ready to take care of Terry when she was at home was just an added bonus. We have known each other for a really long time, and I trusted her, so I didn't think there was anything off about this suggestion. She's nice, quiet, and mostly keeps to herself. On the weekends, we would all spend the day together because I had weekends off, and my husband would come back home during that time. But recently, I started noticing that Terry had been acting very weirdly around Jennifer. Before this, he had never had a problem with her, but since last week, or around that time, I noticed that whenever I was at home, Terry would stick to me and refuse to be left alone in a room with Jennifer. At first, I barely picked up on it, because I just thought he was being a kid and following me around like most kids do. But then it started getting weird because he was never really clingy and liked to be on his own sometimes, so this was strange behavior. After a while, I decided that I had to get to the bottom of it because I noticed that he was mostly just following me around whenever Jennifer was in the living room, and he didn't seem to want to be around her. So, a couple of days ago, I sat my son down, and I asked him what was bothering him because I had noticed his behavior around his aunt, and I wanted him to tell me the truth about everything. At first, he was very reluctant to talk to me, but I assured him that Jennifer was not in the house, and she would not do anything to hurt him. It was the evening. I had just come back home from work, and Jennifer had told me that she was leaving to spend the night at a friend's place because they had a party going on, so it was the perfect time. Once I had made sure that Terry knew for a fact that Jennifer was not at home, he started talking and told me that he didn't like being with her anymore. My first instinct as a mother was to obviously ask him if she had done anything to him, and thankfully, he said that she hadn't exactly hurt him directly, but he said that he didn't like being locked up in the house all day. I didn't know what that was supposed to mean, so I asked him to elaborate, and he told me that apparently, as soon as I left the house, Jennifer would make sure that she sent him into the nursery and told him to stay there for a couple of hours. He said that he liked exploring the house and the backyard. He didn't like being holed up in one room, but apparently his aunt had told him that if he tried to escape from the room or if he kicked up a fuss about it, then I would come back home from work and scold him, so he had to stay quiet in that room while he got bored out of his head. I thought it was very strange that she was blocking him in his room because while it wasn't dangerous per se, it was quite weird, and I didn't like the sound of it. Terry told me that he hadn't told me about this so far because he thought that I would be mad at him, but now that I was asking him, he also wanted to let me know that he just really didn't like Jennifer because she would lock him up every day. He said that he wanted to go out in the mornings and that he didn't like being stuck in a room, so I had to do something about it and talk to Jennifer. He made me promise that I would not scold him for this, and neither would Jennifer, so I understood that she had done a number on him, and he was very scared to come up to me and tell me the truth. This was all very concerning, and I probably should have confronted her about it, but instead, I decided to find out what she was doing exactly because if it was something shady, I wanted to have proof of her doing it, and if I confronted her, I probably wouldn't get that. Just to be clear, I didn't have anything against her personally, but if she was doing something shady, then I just wanted to have proof of her so people would believe me. My husband's family is really close, and I didn't want to make any accusations baselessly. So that was my thought process, which is why I called a friend of mine that evening and had him install nanny cams in the living room and in the kitchen. They were hidden quite well, and so there was no way people would have known that it was even there if I didn't point it out to them. Terry was also not aware of the cameras because I was afraid that he might let it slip somehow, so I had to have him distracted while the cameras were installed. But once I was done, I only had to wait until the next day that she would be at home so I could get to know what exactly she would get up to while I was not at home. She spent that night at her friend's place and then came back the next morning just as I was about to leave for work. We had a nice, normal interaction before I left, and that was it. But I wasn't actually going to work. I was just going to be next door with my neighbor and watching her on the nanny cams. I had already asked my neighbor about it because I wanted to know if she had seen any suspicious activity in and around my house or if Jennifer had been having any visitors over, and she had said no. She had very graciously allowed me to check out what was going on from her house, so I would be close enough to intervene if things went south. I could see the door of the nursery from the placement of my camera, and sure enough, just like Terry had told me, merely minutes after I had left, Jennifer forced him into the room, even though he kept arguing and didn't seem inclined to go into the room at all. The mics were not close enough to pick up what she was saying, but I could hear the faint sound of arguing in their room. After a while, she shut the door and locked him in. I was very surprised that she did that, because Terry was a very quiet child and didn't exactly disturb anybody. So if this was about her work, she had nothing to worry about because she could very well work while keeping an eye on him because he just likes to walk around the house or in the garden. Part of me wanted to rush over to my own house and let my son out, but I wanted to get to know more, so I just let things unfold on their own for a while. I noticed that she was not doing anything, just sitting on the couch and scrolling. That seemed innocent enough, so I couldn't understand why she would lock my son in his room to do that. So I waited for about an hour, and then I noticed that she went to the kitchen, so I switched to the kitchen cameras and bingo, there it was. She opened the kitchen door to let a guy in, but he was in a hoodie, so I couldn't understand who it was. It wasn't until they were back in the living room and the guy had taken his hoodie off that I realized who it was. My ex-boyfriend, Marcus, whom Jennifer knew about only because he was a crazy stalker, and I had been complaining about him a couple of years ago. For some context, Marcus and I had dated for a few months before I met my husband. He and I were not even serious. We had just gone out on a couple of dates and hooked up once. It was in the first few months of college, and soon enough, I realized that we were not meant to be together because he was just very different and too intense for me. So I decided to dump him, and 2 weeks later, I started going out with my husband. I honestly didn't think that he would take it too hard because we hadn't even been serious, but apparently he had really liked me and had even told all his friends about me. So everybody started calling me names for going out with somebody else weeks after my breakup with him. I didn't care about it, though, because I was with a guy that I really liked, and I couldn't give a crap about what other people thought of me. Besides, my husband was the same as me, and he also didn't care about what Marcus or his friends said. I had made it very clear to him that he and I were not serious, and I had made it very clear to Marcus as well while we were together, so I don't understand why he thought that we would end up together when I had told him that I was not that interested. It was just meant to be a short fling and nothing else, but he went crazy about me. I had to get a restraining order against him a couple of years ago because I was pregnant at the time, and he had started following me around, so that was concerning, and I didn't want anything bad to happen to me or my child. The only reason we even managed to get the restraining order against him was because he had exhibited unstable and psychotic behavior before that as well after a breakup. And once we had graduated from college, he kept trying to get back in touch with me and would text me every weekend, but I never responded to him. I blocked his account several times, but he would just keep on making new ones, so after a while I just gave up because it was pointless, and it wasn't as if I actually cared or it was hurting me anyway, so I just started ignoring it instead of blocking it. For the record, my husband had known about it all along, and he didn't have a problem with the way that I was dealing with the situation. If things would go too far, he had told me to come to him, and we would go to the cops together, but it never got that far, thankfully. However, around the time of my marriage, just as I had announced my engagement, he started calling me and begging me to take him back and cancel the engagement. I answered the call a couple of times just to get him off my back, and I even insulted him, hoping that it would hurt his pride, and then he would stop calling. But he had no pride. He continued to call and only stopped when I got a lawyer involved, and I told him that I had filed a restraining order against him. I was bluffing, of course, but that scared him, and he promised me that he would be back. But for the next couple of years, he didn't bother me apart from a few texts saying that he missed me and he knew that we were going to be together someday. There was nothing too serious, but that changed when I got pregnant. I didn't announce it until I was in my second semester, but when I did announce it on social media, that's when the stalking started. I didn't notice it for the first couple of days, but then I started seeing a white car with tinted windows following me around wherever I went. It really started freaking me out after a few days, so I decided to tell my husband about it and reported it to the cops. We found out that it belonged to Marcus, and he had been following me around ever since I posted about my pregnancy on social media. When he was brought in, he immediately started begging me on his knees to take him back and said that he didn't even have a problem with the fact that I was carrying somebody else's child. He insisted that I leave my husband and said that I couldn't punish him like this anymore. It was just totally psychotic, and I was really scared. So that's the day that I decided to press charges against him and filed a restraining order. We got one for 2 years. For those 2 years, he didn't bother me, so we didn't need to apply for another. I figured that after one restraining order, he might have gotten his head back on straight and had forgotten about me, so I didn't bother with him after that. He also did not text me or bother me during and after that period of time, so I had completely forgotten about him. But when I saw him in my house, chilling with Jennifer and making out with her and stuff, I realized that this was unacceptable. I wasn't jealous like Jennifer is implying, but I was just angry that it's typical of everything that this guy had put me through. She was still with him and had even invited him into my house. The audacity to do that, and to expect that she would get away with it while she had locked my son inside his room was crazy. But when I saw that, I saved the recording and immediately rushed over to my house. I also entered through the kitchen door because I didn't want to alert them by entering through the living room door, since it would be locked. I would have to use my keys, and they could probably use that time to help Marcus escape through the back door. So I came in, and I walked into the living room, and I confronted them while they were getting cozy with each other on the couch. I started yelling at Jennifer, pretending that Marcus wasn't even there because I didn't even want to talk to him, and asked her what she thought she was doing because I had thought she was responsible enough to make good decisions while she was home with my son, but clearly that was not the case. She tried to defend herself, saying that she was in love with Marcus, and so was he, and that they had been dating for almost a year now, so I had nothing to worry about. But for me, it was not even about them. I was mad about the fact that she had been lying to me and locking up my son in his room just because she wanted to spend time with her so-called boyfriend, who just happened to be my psychotic ex. It was the fact that she was treating my son badly and was lying to me that it really pissed me off, and I couldn't tolerate it, so I told her that she had to leave that very instant, or I would call the police on both of them because I was not trying to let this go. I let Terry out of the room, and in the meantime, Marcus left through the back door after promising me that he was not there to create any trouble for me, but he was just here because he was in love with Jennifer. And Jennifer continued to try and talk me out of kicking her out of the house because right now she had nowhere else to go. But that was not my problem. She should have thought about it before sneaking in my ex-stalker into my house. I told her that there was no way I was going to let her live with us anymore because she had betrayed my trust in the worst way possible, and what she had done was irreversible. She tried to convince me that Marcus was a different person now. She said that he had gone to therapy for a really long time and was under intensive psychological pressure back then, which is why he had been acting out, and that's why I had to get a restraining order against him, but that apparently changed his life and he got on the right track after that. She told me that she had met him at a bar about a year ago, and he was the one who had approached her first because he had recognized her from the wedding photos, and he wanted to tell her that he was sorry. And since it was not appropriate for him to come and apologize to me, he wanted to have Jennifer convey it to me. And apparently, back then, she felt pity for him, so she decided to talk to him, and he asked her out on a date at the end of the night. First off, that was incredibly creepy and not romantic in the slightest, like she believed it was, because he was around my age, and she's a lot younger. She was just 21 at the time, and he must have been around 29, so around 30, and if that's not creepy, I don't know what is. And more importantly, since she had known about his past, she had no business bringing him anywhere around me or my family. I don't understand why she thought it would be appropriate for him to come over, especially when I was the one doing her a favor by letting her live with me. Even though we were not related by blood, it would have been very easy for me to find a sitter and replace her. There was no need for me to let her live with me, but I liked her, and that's why I had trusted her. But she took the trust that I had in her and tossed it right out of the window. So now for her to expect that I would still continue to let her live with me and forgive her for what she did was just unreasonable and ridiculous. Besides, it was not even just the thing about Marcus. It was also about how she had been treating my son. Locking Terry in his room so she could canoodle with her boyfriend was not something that I appreciated, and I was not going to let her off the hook for it. So I told her very angrily that she had to leave the house because I was not going to allow her to live with me under any circumstances whatsoever. After a lot of begging and arguing, she finally came to terms with the fact that I had made up my mind and left. The only thing that she had asked of me was that I didn't tell her parents about it because they would be very upset since this was something very wrong. I didn't make any promises. I just stood there silently and watched her leave. After that whole episode, I put Terry down for a nap because it had been a very stressful morning, but I still had to tell my husband about what had happened, and now here is probably where I might have been the a-hole. There was no need for me to do it, but I was just so angry that I wanted to get back at her for what she did. I was very frustrated that I trusted this person, and instead of valuing my trust and doing right by me, she decided to hook up under my roof with the one person that I hated the most, and I was just so angry about it that instead of sending the footage to my husband, I decided to send it to the family group. And I know that the consequences of doing that would not be good for her, because as I had mentioned before, my husband's family is very close with each other, and they take their relationships quite seriously. Last year itself, my in-laws had cut off one of my husband's aunts because she had been talking crap about my husband, and they were not going to tolerate it. So when I say that they take their relationships very seriously, I mean it. And I knew that when they found out about what Jennifer had been getting up to behind our back, they would be pissed. But despite knowing that, I went ahead with it, and what happened was something that I had expected. Her parents cut ties with her that day and stopped speaking to her altogether. My husband was also really shocked that this happened and that Jennifer would do something like this. He had almost wanted to press charges against her, but I was the one who asked him to drop it because she was going through enough as it was. After I had sent that video to the group, my in-laws called me to apologize on their daughter's behalf and informed me that they would not be speaking to her ever again. They were very upset, which I knew would happen, and my husband had a similar reaction. They have all cut her off, to sum it up, and right now, she is pretty much nobody to go live with. I know this because she texted me a few hours ago and told me that I had basically ruined her life by sending that video in the family group. She doesn't really have a lot of friends, and once she does, she can't live with them because they also live with roommates. Some of them live with their parents, and she would find it very weird to live with those friends. She can't live with Marcus either because he lives with his parents as well, and they don't know about her yet. And he can't tell them because if they found out that she was related to us, they would lose their heads, and he would lose a home as well. So now, basically, she can either find an apartment, which is going to be bad because she can barely afford on the salary that she has, or she will have to start looking for a better job, but she can't do that while being homeless. So, it's a conundrum, and I feel really guilty for putting her into that situation. I know that I shouldn't have to, but I just feel bad because she's in trouble right now, and it's all because of me. I don't know, I feel like my reaction might have been a bit too extreme and driven by anger instead of just wanting to do the right thing, and it's not like I didn't know that this was going to happen. I was fully aware of the kind of reaction that my husband's family would have to something like this, and yet, in spite of knowing that, I sent that video to the family group, and I feel very responsible for what is happening to her. I talked to my husband about it, and he thinks that I'm overthinking it. This is not really my fault. It's Jennifer's fault, and even if you do give him the benefit of the doubt and believe that Marcus probably has changed for the better, it still doesn't excuse what she did with Terry. She used to lock him in his room for hours to the point where he had developed a fear of being in his room for too long, and we're still trying to deal with it. So she kind of had this coming, and it's very pointless to blame myself for it. This is something that she did to herself, and yet I can't shake off the feeling that I am responsible for it, and I just feel very bad, especially after the message that she sent me. I can tell that she is desperate right now, and it doesn't help the situation or how I feel about it. After getting my sister-in-law in trouble with her family because she was hooking up with my stalker ex. Update 1. Hey, thanks for the reassurance, you guys. That really helped me deal with the things that have been going on and helped me process a lot of it. Also, some of you have been asking if I've been thinking about taking my son to therapy, and yes, that has been on the table. My husband and I have been toying around that idea for a while now, pretty much the day that we found out about his sister, so we might start in a couple of days. Thank you so much for the concern, yet again. Update 2. So, my husband, his family, and I received an email from Jennifer today, almost 2 weeks after the incident. It was not an apology in the slightest, much to my disappointment. I don't care, though. She doesn't need to apologize to me, because I know I'm not going to forgive her anyway. But the email was to let us know that she and Marcus were still going strong, and that in spite of our best efforts, they had not broken up yet. She claimed that apparently everything that had happened with me had to happen so that Marcus could eventually meet her, and she could understand that I was jealous of her, but I just had to get over it and accept the fact that he had moved on. I don't even understand where that came from, because not once had I ever mentioned that I wanted the attention that Marcus had been giving me. I hated that attention, and I wanted him to be as far away from me as he could be. So no, I was not jealous in the slightest, and she was sorely mistaken if she thought that I had gone public about her affair with Marcus because I was jealous. My husband also thought it was a ridiculous, narcissistic email and decided that the next time she sent us anything, we were just not going to open it at all. It was not even worth reading. One thing is for sure, though, reading that email really made me glad that I had sent that photo of us in the family group instead of just to my husband, because everybody deserves to know what a horrible person she really was. Update 3. Hi everyone, it's been a year since we cut ties with Jennifer, and from what we hear, she and Marcus got married a couple of months ago and have moved to Canada. She's also pregnant right now. She announced the news about a week ago, and it appears to us that she and Marcus are doing well. Honestly, good for her. The funny thing is that even my husband and I are also expecting a child, and I'm in my second trimester already. Not many people know it, but I guess we're going to make that announcement soon enough. As for Terry, he's very excited to be a big brother, and my husband and I are overjoyed about this, and we're going to make sure that this time we don't screw up by getting a bad babysitter. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Roommate from hell. Stole my stuff and framed me until I caught her red-handed and got her suspended. I'm 17F, a high school student. I moved to California 7 months ago for my further studies. It was hard to convince my parents, but in the end, they had to surrender on one condition, that I had to stay at a hostel in a school of their choice. I was on cloud 9 when I saw my school. I had heard about this school from a common friend, and according to her, it was one of the best schools in California. I got a nice, spacious room in the hostel. The first day away from my parents was hard to spend, but soon I started enjoying my freedom. Now I could do whatever I wanted. I had no one to scold me for staying awake till midnight or having my favorite snacks in my bed. It was like a dream, and that is why I'm here today, filling you in on my situation, which never in my life had I thought I would be facing, and who turned my life into a living hell. Mancy F., my roommate. She's the kind of girl no one would ever want to live with or even have a friendship with. She's such a bossy person and always orders people around. She thinks that everyone should obey her and that we are all her servants. I don't know what I did to deserve her. I still remember how she was yelling at her mother when she entered the hostel because she didn't want to live there. I immediately felt bad for her parents. I won't say I didn't try to build a good relationship with her. Since the very first day she entered my life, I remember only one thing, how she tried her level best to put me down instead of building a healthy roommate relationship. I remember how I tried to talk to her when we were having dinner at the dining table with other girls, but she didn't look interested at all, rolled her eyes, and left her seat. The next day, when I was watching something on my phone patiently, she threw my blanket off my bed because she couldn't find her notebook. When I tried to help her, she pushed me back instead and called me clingy. Sometimes I think she has some multiple personality disorder because later she apologized for her behavior, but her behavior hasn't changed at all. She still sometimes makes a big fuss about little things. She's just getting on my nerves. The only time I'm calm and relaxed is when I'm with Melissa F., my only best friend here. She listens to my nonstop complaints about my roommate and supports me. We spend most of our time in the cafeteria and sometimes in her room. We avoid spending time in our room because of my terrible roommate. Once Melissa came to my room, and Mancy fought with her because she was sitting on her chair, which she misunderstood as mine. Mancy insulted her and said really bad things to her. Since then, I don't invite her to my room anymore. The main matter of concern for me now is that she is using her knowledge of my likings and dislikes for her own benefit. For instance, she purposely wears perfumes with woody and strong scents because she knows I'm allergic to them. Sometimes she would yell at me in front of everyone at school, especially in front of Jack, because she knew I liked him. She read my diary. She always troubles me by doing these things, always poking around in my life. Luckily, we didn't study in the same section. Otherwise, it would have been worse. Mancy is not just an arrogant girl, but also a bully. Last week, she tortured a poor little girl. We were walking past the cafeteria, and there was a girl sitting on a chair with some students consoling her and trying to make her stop crying. Her clothes were all dirty with ink on them. It looked like somebody had poured ink on her, and that somebody was none other than Mancy. I couldn't help but ask her about it. When the girl was done sobbing, she told us that my evil roommate had ordered her to bring a burger for her. Maybe the girl was a junior, which made Mancy see her as easy prey. When the girl refused to do anything for my roommate, she lost her temper and sprayed ink on the innocent girl. Except for a few boys, there was no one in the cafeteria, and those boys were busy playing video games, so they didn't notice anything. My roommate then abused her and left the cafeteria. We decided to complain about this to the principal, but when we reached the office, we saw my roommate sitting outside the office. One of our teachers in first aid was also there. Mancy had bruises on her right arm and was crying. We were all in deep shock. No one had ever thought that she could even hurt herself by playing the victim. We all knew her as an arrogant bully, but this was our first time seeing her as a cunning person. I knew that it would be a waste of time to go to the principal, but Melissa insisted, and I was right. My clever roommate was able to convince the principal that it wasn't her who started the fight. After all, she had strong evidence, her injury. She even told the principal that we girls bully her and make fun of her. We all felt so helpless. It is Mancy who bullies people, yells at them, makes them do her assignments, and tortures her roommate. What surprised me the most was that when my roommate came back to our room with 2 of her bootlickers, she seemed all fine and was laughing her heart out as if nothing had happened. It made me so frustrated to see her. I couldn't bear her voice, let alone her laugh. She looks at me with a wicked smile on her face whenever she talks to me. I know that she wants me to know that she is the real boss here and no one could beat her. What is more frustrating is that I'm not as lucky as others because they can at least stay peaceful in their room, unlike me, who has to deal with her nuisance even after school. I'm hoping to stay away from her as much as possible and stay in Melissa's room more to avoid any useless argument with her. But I don't think things are going to be any better after all that she has done at school. Update 1. Every day with Mancy is getting worse. Now, I know I haven't been keeping you guys updated about my turbulent life. It's because the last few days were really tough for me to cope with. Every day, new drama is happening in my life, all because of my evil roommate. If all those were not enough, Mancy was made the head girl of the school. I don't know what magic she had done on the teachers that she was made one. I mean, yeah, she's the captain of the basketball team and vice captain of the soccer team, but she is quite dumb in studies. I mean, there are other girls who are smarter, more intelligent, and more disciplined than her. For instance, me. I have been participating in most of the curriculum, and I'm good at my studies too. Mancy's tortures knew no bounds after becoming the head girl. She insulted many girls, including Melissa, for wearing lipstick to school, even when Mancy herself wore makeup, but she rubbed it off before the assembly, and we all knew that she was going to get her makeup done again. Her bossy behavior has been at its peak lately. Next Saturday, our school is hosting an annual function. I have given my name as a contestant because I thought it would be a good opportunity to show off my paintings. But yesterday, I got to know that my name was removed from the list. I know Mancy did this because the girls who are handling the lists of contestants are Mancy's minions. She not only got my name removed, but also all the names of other students whom she dislikes for all the activities. She chose only her friends and those who tolerated her bossy behavior. When I asked her why she did that, she laughed and called me an attention seeker. She literally questioned my worth and told me that I was not a deserving contestant. which is why she removed my name from the list. According to my dominating roommate, nobody would want to see my paintings. Melissa suggested that I participate in dance because she and her BF were also participating in it. When I reached out to Mancy for nominations, she said I can apply for dance, but for that, I must have a partner with me. Melissa suggested that I should ask Jack to be my partner. Melissa overheard it, and before I could ask him anything, she asked Jack to dance with her for the annual function. Jack is a little introverted, and he has asked Mancy for some time to think about it. I'm still hoping that he will reject her proposal because I have noticed him staring at me multiple times. I'm getting chills just at the thought of seeing both of them dancing. Update 2. I was hoping that Jack would reject Mancy's request, as I mentioned in my last update, but it turned out into something else. Actually, Mancy didn't ask him for it. She told him that it is the teachers who have decided the pairs, and that is why Jack has to accept the request. Seeing both of them dancing kills me. She gives me a sneer every time they're dancing. I have tolerated her enough. I feel helpless because I know that I can't do anything about this. 3 days ago, when I was studying and Mancy was getting ready to go to Jack's place for dance rehearsal, she asked me to pass her lip gloss. I knew she wanted to make me jealous, but I did not want to show her that it was her victory. They were just a dance couple and nothing more than that. So I passed the lip gloss to her and started asking her about how her dance rehearsal was going, etc. She was speaking with much enthusiasm in her voice. Although it was killing me from the inside, I showed no reaction on my face. I was just smiling. When she left, I kept thinking about what they would do. What if Jack started liking her? This thought was actually killing me from the inside. I believe I have lost Jack before actually having him. My terrible roommate stole him from me. Speaking of stealing, I want to tell you guys something else. This is something that is bothering me a lot. My belongings are disappearing. I don't know where. First, it was my super expensive handbag that I purchased after saving money for almost 8 months. At first, I thought I must have kept it in Melissa's room, as I took it there to show her, but after checking her room, it wasn't there. I reported this to the warden, but haven't received any fruitful results yet. It started with my bag, but soon a number of my other things also started disappearing, including my clothes and makeup. Of course, I suspect Mancy of stealing my belongings because no one else comes to our room other than Mancy and her minions. Not just me. I have heard that a lot of other girls at our hostel are losing their stuff. I don't know about others, but for my things, I suspect Mancy. Update 3. It was Mancy. My gut felt bang on target. It was Mancy who was stealing my stuff and all. Remember how Jack and Mancy used to go for rehearsals in the evening and I used to cry in my bed for hours? One such evening, after she left the room, I found her wardrobe keys lying under the bed. I guess it slipped while she was stuffing it inside her bag. She barely forgets it, but today she was so busy making me jealous that nothing else mattered to her at all. So she forgot to take her keys with her. That stealing thing came to mind, and I got curious. I knew that it wasn't the right thing to do, but my curiosity was at its peak, so much so that I couldn't stop myself. I opened her wardrobe. It was the messiest wardrobe I had seen in my entire life. Her clothes were stinking. They were dirty, but that's not what I was interested in. After digging through her dirty clothes, I found my missing bag, some of my missing clothes, and some of my makeup items. So Mancy was indeed a thief, apart from all her titles of being a bully and arrogant girl. But trust me, I wasn't shocked at all because deep down in my heart, I knew that it was her. I was thinking about why on earth she was chosen to be my roommate and how low she could stoop. I searched every other place, but didn't find anything else. Then I locked her wardrobe, threw the key on the bed, and left it as it was. I called Melissa and told her how Mancy had crossed all the limits. I wanted to expose Mancy, but we could not think of any idea. If we showed Mancy's wardrobe to the warden, she would just say that I had planted those stolen items there and was framing her. Melissa suggested that I just take out my stuff from her wardrobe before she comes back, and later we would figure out the revenge. My bag and the makeup item were so expensive, I just couldn't afford to lose it. I pulled it back secretly. I wanted to leave the school at that moment. I really wanted to run from the hostel, but where could I go? I don't know anyone here. Melissa said that we would figure out something, and for that moment, I have to just calm myself down. I was broken completely and didn't know what to do. I was thinking about my hometown and wanted to go back. All these were keeping me so stressed that I was not able to focus on my studies. Looking at my depression, Melissa forced me to talk to the warden about the incident. She wanted me to complain to the warden about Mancy. I wasn't the only person who hated her. Everyone in the school, except her crawlers, wanted her to leave the school. We both knew that many students had complained about Mancy's behavior, but every time she defended herself, stating that she was the head girl of the school and students didn't like her, so they made false allegations against her. I knew nothing would happen to her, and she would get away with her evilness, so I didn't complain to the warden about it. I want to expose her true colors to the teachers, but I'm just not able to come up with any plan. Update 4. You know what? Mancy is finally out of my room, and I couldn't be happier. That day, I discovered my items in her wardrobe, and I took it out from there. Mancy didn't realize that I had taken it back. 2 days passed, but she didn't say anything about it. Probably she was too busy rehearsing her dance moves with Jack. Melissa and I came up with a plan to trigger Mancy and then secretly record her obnoxious behavior. So on the third day, I placed my phone on the bookshelf, hiding it between the books opposite Mancy's wardrobe. Melissa was with me in the room when Mancy entered. She immediately got infuriated that Melissa was sitting on her bed. Melissa apologized, but Mancy went full-blown on her. So the bully part of her was captured. Next was about her theft. I pulled out the bag from my wardrobe and all those missing tops that I found from Mancy's wardrobe the other day and showed them to Melissa. I was like, see, what did I find? When Melissa asked me where I found that missing stuff, I simply looked at Mancy. Mancy's face turned pale, and she started abusing me. She started yelling that how could I call her a thief and all that. I said, because she was a thief and stole others' belongings. She kept abusing me, but I didn't back out. Mancy lost her mind and opened her wardrobe and started throwing all the stolen items and dared me that I couldn't do anything about it. She was like, yeah, I have all these clothes and makeup of you poor chicks, and what are you going to do about me? She mocked me and triggered. Do you want to complain? Do you want to complain? Go ahead and complain. You chicks cannot do anything. Remember, who's the boss here? She became so aggressive that at one point in time, her face was almost touching my nose. Melissa had opened her Instagram live when Mancy was throwing all the stolen items on my face and was charging at me. When Mancy realized that she was being recorded, she tried to snatch the phone from Melissa, and their scuffle also went live. Melissa stopped the recording, but by then, the damage was already done. Besides, we had the full video of the incident getting recorded through my phone. Mancy was still shouting and cursing us when her phone started buzzing. Her friends were calling to tell her that she was caught on Instagram Live and that so many had seen it. Melissa went out to call the warden because we knew Mancy was not going to spare us. We were right. Mancy became monstrous and hurled such abuses and assaults on me that I could have never imagined. By then, Melissa arrived with the warden. I took my phone from the bookshelf and showed the full recordings to the warden. Mancy was so infuriated that I had recorded her all this while that she tried to snatch the phone from the warden's hand. The warden rebuked her and put her in place. I told the warden that I was going to involve my parents and the police if required if she didn't take any action. I played the same dirty game of playing the victim in front of the warden. I was crying and insisted that I would directly show this to the principal if she didn't report Mancy. The warden took all 3 of us with her to the principal's office. I kept crying the whole time. I'm sure Mancy would have also used her tears to get away with her wrongdoings, but this time she was caught big time, and she could no longer use tears to fake it. The principal saw the video and called both of our parents on the next day, and he instructed the warden to change the room for Mancy. Mancy yelled in front of the principal that she was not going to move to another room because her friends lived in the adjacent rooms. So I requested that my room be changed. I can live anywhere except with that wicked girl. The warden changed my room, but also scorched Mancy for her behavior. There was a lot of drama, and it would take forever for me to write all those in detail. So in brief, the warden went back to Mancy's room and checked her wardrobe. She found a lot of missing items reported by the other girls. I was packing my belongings when all this happened. You won't believe what happened next. When my parents met with the principal and saw the video, they blamed the management and the warden for not taking care of the children's safety. My dad was like he was going to call the police right away, but the principal somehow stopped it. Meanwhile, Mancy's parents didn't take her side and stood quiet. This angered Mancy, and she started yelling at her mother in front of everyone that they were not taking her side like my parents were taking mine. She only got silent when the principal threatened to suspend her from school. Her father at last spoke that Mancy was a sports person, so it is natural for her to be a little aggressive, and she brings the aggression of the field in the house. The warden asked them to seek counseling for her because it is not healthy or natural to torture others. She was indeed a bully and nothing else. The principal asked Mancy's parents to take her home for a few days until he handled the other matters. The principal told me and Melissa that we shouldn't have posted on Instagram and that I should complain to the authorities. I told him that no actions had been taken on Mancy earlier, so I didn't complain and instead chose this route. He didn't say anything further, but we were also not applauded for our bravery. The principal and the warden were concerned that it would damage the reputation of the school and the dorm, so they held me and Melissa equally responsible for damaging the reputation, although they didn't tell us anything. Mancy is going through her suspension period. It is still not sure if she will continue to be the head girl or not. The annual function is also next week. Jack has also moved out from the dance program because Mancy is not there. Melissa asked me to join Jack as the partner, but I don't want to make a fool of myself by going to the stage without sufficient practice. 90% of the rehearsals are over, so I don't intend to join midway. I don't know what is going to happen when Mancy returns from her suspension period. I'm definitely not hoping that she will mend her ways. She is definitely going to hunt me down, but this time I'm prepared for this. The best part is I don't have to see her face day and night. We'll update if anything develops. Now on to the next story. Story 8. My fiancée cheated on me, so I did the same to her and took revenge. I'm a 27-year-old male, engaged to my long-term girlfriend, Fiona, 26F. We have been dating for over 3.5 years and have been living together for over 2 years. Things were pretty smooth between us. We worked hard in our jobs, earned quite decently, and partied harder. We enjoyed each other's company and were happy and satisfied with life. This summer, after I got my promotion at work, I went down on my knees and proposed to her. We were planning our wedding for this new year, but I think my destiny has something else in store for me. I don't know if I really want the wedding or not. Ever since the COVID lockdown was imposed, we were working from home until 5 months back when Fiona switched her job. Her new employer asked her to work from the office. It didn't come as a surprise to us because since everything has bounced back to normal, so has the work culture. Soon after she started going to the office, I realized she was gradually changing. Initially, I thought it was just me overthinking in her absence. Until then, I was so used to having her with me in the house all the time. We ate together, partied together, and went out for jogs and walks together. We did almost everything together. Then, suddenly, she was away for more than 10 hours a day. It was natural for me to miss her. On top of that, I was working from home. Had I been going to the office, things would have been better. I somehow made peace with this, that she has to go to work, and that she's not doing anything wrong. It's not her fault at all. I'll admit I was an a-hole for some time, but then I accepted that I was being overdramatic and got normal with the situation. While I was still struggling to make peace with her absence from the house for half the time, she started coming late from work. The worst part was she didn't inform me that she would be late. I kept waiting for her for dinner. When she came, she said she was so hungry that she grabbed a sandwich from the office cafe, and now she was too full to have dinner. She blamed her hectic work for her late coming. She didn't lie about it, though. Her work was actually hectic. I saw her busy on office calls until midnight. Her work became so hectic that she stopped doing any household chores except for some cleaning work on Saturdays. For 10 to 11 hours of the day, she was at the office, and for the remaining hours in the evening, she was still busy doing office work. I couldn't say anything because a year ago, I too was battling a difficult work schedule, and she supported me through it, so I fully supported her, did all the household chores, and cooked for us. Fiona and I have always been very transparent with each other. We shared everything, even our wildest fantasies, which usually people don't share with their partners. We never judged each other. She always came home with a new set of stories that happened at her workplace, and it made me miss my pre-COVID office space so much. I'm an extrovert and love hanging out with people. Initially, it was so difficult for me to work from home, but then Fiona shifted with me, and I never felt lonely again. Now, when she was going to work and I was not, I was feeling bad about it. To be honest, sometimes I did feel jealous that she was going to the office, meeting new people, and enjoying with them, whereas I was just stuck at home. Many a time, I wanted to switch to a company where I could work from the office, but my company was paying me 1.5 times more than any company would pay for my skill set and experience. Besides, I was and still am working for one of the most reputed companies in the Bay Area. It was meaningless and stupid to leave such a good workplace just to get rid of loneliness at home. One day, Fiona came home from work and enthusiastically said that everyone in her workplace was surprised to know that she was about to get married. They said she was settling in too fast and that she should explore more. I asked her if she felt the same, to which she said no. She was happy to take our relationship forward, but somewhere I felt she was getting influenced by her coworkers and probably regretted getting married early. It wasn't that early, though, but they flattered her that she looked way younger than her age. I won't lie that I didn't get annoyed by her constant nagging about how her coworkers said she was so young and how her teammates said that she was getting hitched too early. Even if I hated this, I still put up a brave face, heard it with enthusiasm, and laughed with her. I took this to be a temporary thing because, let's admit it, work friendship fizzles out once you leave the company. Fiona was a job hopper. She switched jobs every 2 years, so I didn't take her work friendship to be a big deal. She soon started going out with her colleagues. I know it is pretty normal for colleagues to go out, but for some reason, I didn't feel right about it. I'll tell you the reason. Prior to this office, whenever she used to go out for exclusive parties, she used to tag me along. The same was true for me. I used to take her with me to most of the parties I went to with my colleagues and friends. But with this office, she never invited me with her new colleagues. The weird part about going out with her colleagues was that she never told me prior. I kept waiting for her for the entire evening on Fridays. She would then leave a text during dinner time that she was going out with colleagues. The first time it happened, she came before midnight, and when I complained that she should have informed me prior, so I could have also made some plans with my friends, she fought back saying it was a last-minute plan. She wasn't defensive, though, and said she would take care of it next time. She also dropped a truth bomb that all the other colleagues ditched at the last moment, and she ended up going alone with one of her male colleagues. I didn't react to it. She told me that she just wanted to be transparent with me, hence she wanted me to know everything. I didn't make a big deal out of it because she too never raised any suspicions when I went out with my female friends. We were very secure about each other. Actually, the next instance, she did inform me prior. I also went out with my friends, but I was home by midnight. After coming back, when I called her, she said she was leaving at midnight, but she arrived home at 2 a.m. The bar she went to was hardly 20 minutes away from our place. When I asked her why it was so late, she said she wanted to drop off one of her colleagues because she didn't bring her car. I didn't feel good about it, yet I let it slide. After a while, then comes the third instance, which was kind of a deal breaker for me. She went out again with her colleagues. I was just not able to sleep that night. I was mentally prepared that she would come by 2 a.m., but at 2 p.m., I got a text from her that she was going for a long drive to a sunrise point 50 miles away from the city. I can't explain how angry I was with that text. It made me more restless. I tried hard to sleep, but just could not. I felt something was wrong. At 5 a.m. in the morning, I got a text again that her phone had discharged and might be dead soon. People who go for a sunrise to that place are usually back by 9 to 10 a.m. in the morning. At least 2 months back, Fiona and I went together to that place with our other friends, and we were back before 10 o'clock in the morning. A little after 10 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Fiona. She said her car had broken down on the way back and that she would be late. She finally came back in the afternoon. I was so done with her tantrums for the whole night and throughout the morning that I went fishing in the morning because I was just not able to sleep. I felt so restless. I deliberately came home late in the afternoon. I came home to find her sleeping. When she saw me, she asked me to come to her on the bed. I didn't say anything and came out of the room and dozed off on the living room couch. When she woke up in the evening, she behaved as if nothing had happened. When she saw me angry, she said I was just being overdramatic. She had just gone out with her colleagues, and after the bar was closed, they decided to go for the long drive to Sunrise Point. And while returning, her car actually broke. She showed me the service center bill. I asked her whose number did she call me in the morning. She said it was from the garage that she called me. I had actually called back on that number in the afternoon, and it was from the garage. It happened almost a week ago, and I don't feel right about it. Although she didn't lie to me about her car breakdown or about her sudden plans, somehow I'm not feeling good about it. I'm just getting a vibe that she is definitely up to something. Even if she's not cheating on me yet, eventually she might. I have a strong feeling about it. I have even confronted her about this, and she shrugged it off, saying she would never cheat on me and would never leave me. I discussed this with a friend who knows both of us, and he said that I was reading too much between the lines. Maybe it was just that she was enjoying the company of her new coworker, but it would all fizzle out in some time. Even Fiona said that she was just trying to bond with her coworker, and all these would soon dry out, so I need not be worried about it. My friend even said that I was getting insecure in the relationship, and that I was too emotionally dependent on Fiona. I have never been an insecure person, but these instances are making me go crazy. I came here to this space to get some neutral perspective from strangers. Apologies if the post got too long, but I added the details so that people get a complete perspective of my situation. Are these red flags? Or have I just been jealous that she's enjoying her life while I'm just stuck at home waiting for her? One thing I definitely realize is that I made my life centered around her, which I have to fix. I need to own my happiness. Anyone experienced a similar situation? Would love to get some advice. Thanks. Update 1. I know my post did not garner a lot of attention, but to people who showed concern and gave me some valuable advice, here's an update for people new to this thread. It is about my long-term girlfriend cheating on me, and since then, I have stopped thinking about having any future with her. We were supposed to get married this new year. So, as I mentioned, I wasn't feeling very good about Fiona loitering the whole night with her colleagues. The more I got frustrated with her newfound hobby, the more she started going out. All the instances I wrote about in my last post happened in a span of 1 month, so you get how frequent her nights out were. The worst part was when I objected to it. She called me jealous. She advised me to join a company where I could work from the office. She also pacified me, saying she would never leave me, and even if she got distracted, she would come back to me. I asked her if she had already cheated. She said no. I made it clear that cheating was a deal breaker for me. She assured me that she didn't cheat, but also hinted that we both should enjoy our life without thinking too much, and that our relationship is long-term and nothing would come in between. She gave me such a mixed signal when she said her nights out were just temporary distractions. Of late, she was being too protective of her phone. We never used to check each other's phones, so sneaking into her phone was the last thing that came to my mind. I knew her. She was smart, and even if she did anything, she would not leave any evidence on her phone. Despite that, I checked her phone one day when she was in the shower. Although there was no evidence that she was cheating on me, I somehow felt she did cross her line with the way she chatted with her male colleagues. By then, I was adamant about putting an end to the relationship because her gaslighting was draining me. She never admitted her mistake and labeled me as insecure and jealous. Our problem was that she was not giving any time to our relationship. Instead, she was busy partying with her colleagues. The ideal solution to fix this would be to give quality time to our relationship, but she chose to advise me to keep myself busy with my friends so that I don't miss her enough. This continued for a while until I put my foot down. I realized that even if she was not cheating on me, we were just not on the same page. Hence, marriage should be off our radar. I also dropped the responsibility of carrying the burden of the relationship alone and started going out more without her. She did feel bad, but she didn't say anything because she had been doing the same with me. I just didn't want to leave her like this. I wanted to hurt her. I wanted to do the exact same thing to her. So I started talking to the women whom I'd been ignoring all this while. I started going with them, taking pictures with them, posting them on social media, and coming home late every weekend. I didn't hide anything from her and let her see whatever I was doing. There was this woman, let's call her Amy. She was from my last company and used to hit on me when we were working on the same project. We flirted for a while, but nothing panned out then, and it fizzled out after a while. This time, I gradually started chatting with her, replying to her stories, and asking her out. I somewhere felt I was doing wrong to Amy, But I guess my mind was too fogged with the desire to hurt Fiona that I could not stop myself. I just wanted to hurt Fiona in the same way she did to me. After a while, it was evident to her that I was cheating on Fiona, but she said I was doing all this to get back at her. There were instances when I came home with lipstick marks on my neck and shirt collars, but she said that I was just doing this to make her feel jealous. One day, I called Amy home, and although I knew it was time for Fiona to arrive, I kept doing stuff with Amy. I wanted Fiona to see everything. When she saw me with Amy, she started crying but didn't say anything. I told her that I knew she too had cheated on me. Though I had no evidence, I just shot in the air. Guess what? She admitted to it. She said it was just to experience how it feels to have hookups. I asked her why she didn't tell me about this. She told me she was scared of losing me because cheating was a deal breaker for me. We used to share our darkest fantasies with each other. Yet she didn't tell me that she wanted to hook up with her colleague. She said I was conservative in the relationship and would have never allowed that. After all these, she had the guts to say that we could have a fresh start, but I called off the wedding and gave her back the ring. She started crying hard and said I had taken my revenge by sleeping with other women. So we were even. I don't know if this is even, but surely our experience and motive were different. She cheated on me for her own pleasure and to experience all those so-called thrills. I cheated on her just to take my revenge. I know it may seem unbelievable, but I didn't enjoy any of the moments I had with any woman. All those times, I just kept thinking of Fiona, that I was doing this just to hurt her. Even on the day when Fiona walked into Amy, the entire time I was thinking of various ways Fiona would react to seeing us. I know it might sound pathetic, but that is what it is. I don't know if it was love or hatred that wanted to hurt her so badly. After the confrontation, I asked her to move out because the lease agreement was in my name. I would have left if it was rented and not leased. She pleaded with me for a fresh start, but I was done with her. While leaving, she said she would wait for me to cool off. I told her not to because I would not change my mind. It's just been a week. I won't lie, I'm feeling terrible without her, but I'm never going to have her back in my life. I'm planning for a vacation to clear my head. Also, I'm planning to vacate this house because it has too many memories of her. I won't be able to move on if I stay in this house. We'll update if anything develops. Update 2. Thanks for all the support in my last thread. It kind of got a lot of attention. I wanted to provide a small update on my life. I called off my wedding on the day of the confrontation and gave back the ring to Fiona. She didn't give hers. She said she would wait for me to cool down. We were in the middle of preparing for our wedding when it all happened. We were, in fact, talking with the wedding planner and visiting the venue as well. When I canceled the contract with the wedding planner, Fiona called me and cried. She said she had forgiven me for my cheating, and I should also forgive her. I told her I didn't want to start a married life on the basis of cheating. She said I could take a break from her for a while and then get back together. I said I surely need a break, but I'm not sure if I'll come back to her. She started crying and saying sorry. She said that everyone knew about the wedding, and now I'm canceling it. Then what should she tell her parents? I told her to tell the truth. She asked me if she could come home to meet me. I said I was busy. After that, she messaged me a few times asking if she could come over. I told her I was with Amy, and she stopped asking me again. I wasn't lying. I continued to see Amy after my breakup with Fiona. Amy wasn't looking for a serious relationship, and neither was I. We both are just having a good time together. That's it. I'm traveling to Alaska for a month-long vacation. I hope that will help me move on with my past. I still think of my good days with Fiona and wonder where it went wrong. I don't know whose fault it was. Some of my friends said I could have saved the relationship by giving her a chance. I'm not being arrogant, but what was the point of having a relationship where I felt suffocated every day? Even prior to her cheating, she was gaslighting the situation at home. She ignored our problems and never tried to fix them. Any relationship takes two people to sustain, but in my case, I felt I was just running it alone for the last many months. Thank God I spotted the red flags just at the right time before it was too late. I hope I come out of this stronger. Probably I'll make the next update on my Alaska trip. Thanks for being there for me. Now on to the next story. Story 9. A coworker asked me to be her man of honor. I said no, and she went nuts. What did I miss? This happened yesterday, and I'm still confused. Yesterday was my first day back to work after being off for 2 weeks. This is kind of important. One of my coworkers had gotten engaged the week before I left. When she announced it at work, we all did the congratulations and were happy for her type of things. I thought it was over. So when I left for vacation, last I knew, no plans had yet been made. Then yesterday, when I went back to work, my boss Kim and best friend Laura said that coworker Claire was looking for me. I asked what was up, and they weren't sure, but she was carrying a little gift bag. A few minutes later, Claire found me and asked how my vacation was. I was telling them about it, and she cut me off and said she had a very important question to ask. She handed me a little gift bag and asked if I would be her best man of honor for her wedding. I thanked her and told her that typically this would traditionally go to a close female relationship. She responded that there was nothing traditional about her wedding, so it was good. I looked over at Laura and Kim, who were both trying to keep from laughing. I again thanked her and congratulated her and told her that I wasn't interested in being part of her wedding party and that I would be happier being a guest in the audience. I swear, when I said this, it was when we watched her entire demeanor change and a switch flipped. She went off, saying that I have to be at her wedding and that she doesn't understand why I would say no. I told her that we only knew each other for a short time and that I had no interest in trying to plan parties, dinners, and shopping trips. She told me I needed to think about it, and she would get back to me later. I told her to go for it, but my answer will be the same. She walked away, and I looked at Kim and Laura and asked, what the ever-loving, fresh, creepy hell was that? Kim started to laugh and said she didn't know, but saying no like I did might have saved me a lot of headaches in the future. Laura made the comment that she went straight to Bridezilla, and this was a look into what she was going to be like. Claire came back today. However, she went with a different approach and handed me a list of what she wants me to do and her vision of how she sees things. I asked her why she gave me this, and she said that as her man of honor, these were my responsibilities. I told her again that I was not going to do any of this. She said again that she needs me to do this and how much fun it was going to be. Then she asked, haven't you ever wanted to be the part of something special? I told her I was a nurse. Enter Kim, who could sense that I needed help and told Claire one of her patients needed her help. I told Kim that if this keeps up, I might need her help. She said she was already watching it and would intervene if I needed it. What did I miss? We aren't that close. She just transferred down to my unit from a different unit 6 months ago. I had no idea who she was until that point. Laura is saying that she is close in age to me, and she might feel that to be enough of a connection. Did I miss something? When we were asked, are we supposed to automatically gush and jump up and down in excitement? Why is saying no a bad thing? Some of OP's comments. Commenter, it seems Kim is useless here. You really need to go over Kim's head and nip this in the bud right now, because Claire isn't taking no for an answer. OP, Kim will help. I know she will. She's just waiting to see what her next step is. I have had to have her help with a work issue before. If I have problems with her the next time we work together, they all let Kim loose. Could this be some weird way to flirt? It won't work with me. I like dick. LOL. And I have a boyfriend. LOL. Commenter. I'm not an expert. But isn't this an HR issue now? I mean, isn't that like harassment? OP. It becomes an issue if I report it. My boss is seeing all of it so far and has said that she is watching the situation and will intervene if it keeps going. I'm off tomorrow, so I won't see her for a couple of days. Commenter. She wants to show off how different and edgy she is by having a man of honor. She may also admire your organizing skills and get it done demeanor and thinks you'll throw her great wedding-related parties. OP. I'm a bad gay guy friend. I'm organized when it comes to a lot of things, but planning a wedding is something I've never done and really don't want to learn to do. If I were to ever get married, it's midnight under a full moon at the beach with a few friends and a cookout the next day, LOL. Commenter. Okay, this is going to sound weird, but since she's advertising that it's a non-traditional wedding, is it possible she's after you for a specific reason? Are you gay or part of a racial minority? It's possible she wants her wedding to look super diverse for Instagram reasons, and maybe she's after you for a specific vibe in the pictures. Regardless of the reason, NTA. OP. I don't know her background. Yes, I am gay, and the entire department knows it because I was dating a former nurse, and we broke up. Now I'm dating someone from a different department, and it's all known. All she said was it was a less than traditional wedding, and it would be okay. Yesterday, Kay and Elle asked if I was afraid of something about it. Maybe if I had to wear a dress. I said I would rock the dress. I might need a push-up to fill out the front of a dress if it's strapless, lol. But I just don't want anything to do with it. I have no interest. My life is crazy enough right now. Planning a wedding would go from crazy to insane. Update 1. Hey everyone, first, I apologize. I never thought this was going to go as crazy as it did. I want all of you to know I read all of your responses and responded to as many as I was able to. Thank you all for your amazing insights and comments. Many that made me laugh, which I needed. I have been sick, and that really helped to cheer me up. I had to meet with my lawyer today regarding family issues. Editor's note. Opie goes into detail about those issues and other posts on his profile, but they weren't relevant here, so I didn't include them. My neighbor, best friend, coworker Laura took me. I really felt awful, and driving wasn't a good idea. We were talking about this on the way, and we both were asking a lot of the same questions that all you were asking. The big one was that we were asking about the circumstances of her transfer. She went from med-surg 4W to the ER. That is a huge change. I have to work tomorrow, so we will see what happens, but Laura and I are going to ask him about the transfer and raise a couple of other concerns. After I got home from a meeting with my lawyer, I slept for the rest of the day. Many of you asked about if Claire and I hang out outside of work. The answer is no. I really don't know anything about her. I have helped her a few times with patients and different things, but our relationship is 100% purely work-related. That was why I was so surprised that she asked me to do this. That is why I was so surprised that she asked me about being the man of honor. I have a very small friend base, and in all honesty, I like to keep it that way. I really have no interest in being a part of this. I'm not a wedding person. After reading so many Bridezilla stories and hearing about over-the-top weddings, they have become a huge turn-off to me. Spending tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars with insane, unrealistic demands that turn people against each other. Why? I would rather use that money and spend that time planning my next trip or vacation. Many people said that I was being used as a token or prop in a wedding or a gay best friend. I never really thought about it. I admit that I'm out and proud, but I'm not going to just pretend to be someone's friend just so they can fulfill some kind of fetish they have for wanting to have a gay best friend or some kind of status she feels the need to fulfill. It takes me a lot to get offended, but if this were actually the case, then I would really be rather offended. I was not put on the face of the earth to be someone's play toy. A lot of people have said that maybe she doesn't have a boyfriend. She does. She has brought him in before. If she has any insecurity, I don't understand it. She is attractive, smart, and knows her stuff, so I'm at a loss as to why she is acting like this. A lot of people say go to HR. I'm starting that process with my boss, Kim. She is completely aware of the situation, being with us when all this happens. She has told me that she is watching the situation and will jump in if I need her to. I trust her completely. While Kim and HR can control the situation from the hospital, they can't control the situation from a personal level, if she were to maybe follow me home or a situation like that. So I think that covers it all. I wish I could say this is over, but most likely there's more to come. Now for some comments. Commenter, about that name, Opie's username, you're not just an RN, because there's nothing just about RNs or other nurses. You folks, regardless of gender, do the medical heavy lifting, and when we can't get a straight sorry answer from the oh-so-busy MDs, the nurses provide the no-nonsense information. Opie, my name is kind of an ongoing, running inside joke. I'm told at least once a day or so from a patient that I'm just a nurse. One day I heard it 3 times. I don't really take offense to this. And in a joking way, I repeated what the patient said, and my boss Kim jumped my case about that's not the case at all. I love my job. It's a huge part of me and who I am. It's a part of my identity. Commenter, I'm curious about her list of demands or responsibilities. Like, does she really think you would change your mind now that you had all this BS work to do and money to spend? Opie, it pretty much had me planning the whole thing. She wanted me to plan the bridal shower, the bachelorette party, coordinate dress, shopping, and fittings, make sure everyone was having fun with the whole thing, just to name a few. Commenter, Opie, what the ever-loving, fresh, creepy hell is this? LMAO, Opie, I had no idea what the ever-loving, fresh, creepy hell was from something. It's just something I have always said. Update 2. Next day, I'll be posting an update in a day or two. Things came to a head today, and it was pretty much just as everyone was saying. I need to take some time to understand everything that happened today. I also have a meeting scheduled Monday with the director of nursing at my hospital, which should bring closure. I hope so. Update 3. This intro is going to be long, but I'm telling you about this for a reason, and later in this update, it will make sense. I'm hoping this will be done, and that this will be the last of this whole situation. I was born into a family where I was referred to as an issue that needed to be dealt with. I lived in the shadows of my sister, who was the child my parents wanted. They wanted one child, which was a girl. That way, Dad had his daddy's girl, and Mom had Mommy's little princess. Then I came along. Keep in mind that I'm 23, so back then, my parents had options but chose to not use any of those options. So instead, my parents raised my sister, and I was raised by a nanny who, even to this day, is one of the biggest influences in my life, and I am so grateful for her. She helped me so much. I finally realized that all these years later, that by being referred to as an issue that needed to be dealt with, that they stripped me of my humanity and individuality and self-worth as a person. I think that's why I have worked so hard to establish myself in my career and in my life as a way to become a person again and not just be that issue that needed to be dealt with. This past Thursday, things came to a head with the bridezilla known as Claire, and the truth came out. My best friend Laura has been sticking close to me when we work together. If Claire was to start something, we weren't sure if she was going to leave it alone or start up again. I was really hoping that it was done, but she had to try once again. I've been sick, and I had a busy morning, so I really just wanted a few minutes to go to the bathroom, grab a quick snack, and maybe breathe. Claire came up and had her list and asked if I had a few minutes to talk about the wedding planning. I looked at her and told her again that I was not interested in being part of her wedding and that I was not going to help in any way, and she needed to drop the subject and leave me alone. Again, she went into the whole thing of how I was going to do this and how much fun it was going to be. Here we go with that line all of you love the first time. Why in the ever-loving, fresh, creepy hell is it so important for me to be your man of honor? I'm not interested, and I'm not doing it. It is exactly as pretty much all of you told me it would be. She was just planning on using me as a token or a play toy. She took all of the up-gay stereotypes that are out in society and put them into one sentence. What modern liberal woman isn't going to have a gay bestie on her arm for special events? I felt everything in my stomach move, and a wave of nausea came over me, and I felt like I couldn't get to the bathroom fast enough. This pissed Laura off to no end. Laura is really kind of like the overprotective sister that I wish I would have had, and took Claire off to visit our boss Kim and laid it all out. Everything that was said, while I wasn't in on that conversation, Laura and Kim filled me in on what was said. Kim came to check on me, and I was still hiding in the bathroom. She knocked on the door and asked if she could come in. I asked her for a bottle of water first. While I was waiting, I realized two things. I realized why I chose to not hang out with her and why I didn't like her. I couldn't figure out why I didn't like her, just that there was something that gave me the heebie-jeebies, but I realized that I didn't like her because she is a different version of my sister. While Claire is educated and employed, she doesn't care about other people and their feelings. She is like my sister in the sense that if she wants something bad enough, she will figure out how to get it. The second thing I realized was that she did exactly what my parents did to me. She completely dehumanized me and reduced me to an entity, just kind of turned me into a token or a thing for her. I think the word that best describes it is, I must be a play toy. What really gets me is that just like my sister, Claire doesn't think she did anything wrong, and I'm being too sensitive and a delicate snowflake. The next day, an emergency meeting was held at work, and Claire is being suspended pending investigation, and a new transfer is being looked into. Kim made the request for her to be terminated. The director of emergency nursing said this was a last resort, but she was going to be looking into options, which could be sending her to a new hospital or facility. This didn't go over well with me. I asked what would happen if she did the exact same thing to someone different. She didn't really give me an answer, but she said she still needs to look into a few things, and at this point, she is suspended anyway. Here it is. I'm still pretty sick and had to work this weekend. If I can, I'll respond. I want to thank everyone for all the amazing support. I'm going back to my lawyer to see if he can figure out how to send her a cease and desist letter to make sure she doesn't contact me. I'm heading to bed. Have a good night. Edit. I keep forgetting to thank my boyfriend. He has been with me on this, but more in the background. First, when we were laughing about it, but when everything Thursday happened, he was there as well. I was able to get him away from his unit for a little bit for the okay boyfriend hug. He stayed the night with me a couple of nights as well, also helping with me being sick. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have such great support. Now for some comments. Commenter: what if she targets a vulnerable gay patient next? She's a danger and a liability for your employers to be sued. Opie, thank you for this response. I just texted Kim and asked her about this. She said she was trying to get her fired, and she is hoping this will help the purpose. Now on to the next story. Story 10. My husband left me for another woman right after I gave birth. It's heartbreaking to handle this while caring for a newborn. June 16th, 2024. We've been married for 3 years. I'm 30 and he's 34. 6 weeks ago, I had a baby. After giving birth, my husband became cold and distant. I thought he just needed time to adjust to our new normal, but it turns out he was planning to leave us. 2 weeks ago, he told me that it's not working out anymore, and he doesn't want to be married to me. The news broke my heart. I kept asking him why he was doing this to our family, and his response was, "I can't pretend anymore." He took all his clothes and left. 2 days later, I had a gut feeling that he was seeing someone else, so I checked his email and found hotel reservations. He had taken her on a vacation when I thought he was on a business trip. I searched her name on Facebook and saw him in the background of her pictures. It turns out this affair has been going on for a year. I'm devastated dealing with this and taking care of a newborn baby. I've been crying all day for the past 2 weeks, deluding myself into thinking he will come back to us when he realizes he made a mistake. I texted him when I found out about the other woman, and he ignored me. Hours later, he asked how our son was doing, so I blocked him. I've been feeling so lost. I have no appetite and haven't been eating, which has resulted in my milk supply being very low. I don't know what to do anymore. Relevant comments. Do you have family or friends who can help support you? I know you don't feel ready, but you need legal advice as to your entitlements. You need him to pay child support at the very least. Opie, my parents have been really supportive. Opie on if she is able to change the locks of the house. Don't think I'm legally allowed to change the locks. Update 1, June 25th, 2024. This morning, my husband came back saying he made a mistake leaving his family and wants to work things out. These past weeks have been incredibly rough. I've cried myself to sleep many nights while taking care of a newborn baby. The emotional roller coaster has been overwhelming, and I feel utterly exhausted and drained. When he walked through the door, my heart sank. I'm still deeply hurting and feel even worse now that he's back. His return doesn't erase all the emotional stress he's caused me. The betrayal, the loneliness, and the sheer pain of feeling abandoned by the person I trusted the most are still fresh wounds. He left me and our baby when we needed him the most, during a time that should have been filled with joy and bonding as a new family. Instead, it was marred by his absence and the heartache of discovering his infidelity. The reality of him being with another woman while I was home caring for our child still stings deeply. Now I'm so lost and confused. On one hand, I want to believe that he is sincere, that he realizes the gravity of his mistake and truly wants to make amends. On the other hand, the trust that was shattered can't be easily rebuilt. I can't just forget the nights I spent alone worrying and the days I struggled to manage everything on my own. I'm torn between the desire to give our relationship another chance for the sake of our child and the need to protect myself from further emotional harm. His return has stirred up a whirlwind of emotions, and I'm not sure if I'm ready or even capable of moving past what happened. The fear of being hurt again looms large. I need time to process everything, to think about what I truly want and need. It's not an easy decision, and the weight of it feels immense. I just wish I had some clarity, some way to see a path forward that feels right for both me and my baby. Relevant comments. First comment. I wonder if she even knew he was married or had a pregnant wife/newborn baby. My guess is she recently found out. Opie, I think she knew. He told me he left her, but I don't believe him. I actually sent her a message, and I'm currently waiting for a response. Second comment. You need to speak with a lawyer because him being at the house instead of you may work against you in the divorce if it matters. Opie. I asked him to leave, but he refused, so I left instead. I spoke to an attorney, and they said I can't stop him from staying in our home. Opie questioning if her husband was having a mental breakdown or not. If that's the case, he was having a mental breakdown even before I got pregnant. He was having an affair before I even got pregnant, and it all unfolded when I gave birth. Update 3. Text messages from other woman. June 26th, 2024. Text with the AP and me confirm he's a liar and has been deceiving both of us. My previous post was quite vague, so I thought I'd provide more detail. When my husband came back yesterday, he apologized and said leaving was a huge mistake. He admitted he wasn't thinking straight and would do anything to make things right between us. He wants to be here for me and our son, repeatedly asking what he needs to do to make amends. I told him I didn't want to see him right now and that it was best if he left, but he refused. He kept begging to stay, saying he was sorry and calling himself an idiot who doesn't deserve me. I asked why he did this to us, and he admitted he wasn't thinking clearly and said nothing can justify his horrible actions. Transcripts of a text. Other woman. OW, it's me. I don't use Messenger, so I thought it would be better to text you. You told me you were separated and that he'd started the divorce process. OW, I feel so stupid now for believing him. OP, how long were you seeing each other? And did you know about our son all this time? OW, I met him a year ago at Starbucks where he paid for my coffee. That moment marked the beginning of our relationship. A few months ago, I discovered the baby and decided to break things off. However, he insisted that it didn't mean anything and kept expressing his desire to be with me. OW, he moved in with me weeks ago until this morning, when he woke up and said he's going back to his family. OP, he told me weeks ago, the same time he moved in with you, that it wasn't working with us anymore, and he left me and our 4-week-old baby. OW, OMG, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I wouldn't have let him move in with me if I had known. OP, you don't need to apologize. You didn't know. OW, I'm stuck in a lease I can't afford by myself because he convinced me to get this apartment for us only to bail on me. OP, how old are you? Ow, 25. OW, please feel free to ask me anything you want to know. OW, were you ever separated? OP, we were never separated and lived together until a few weeks after I gave birth. OW, did he tell you why we separated? OP, he didn't say much. It was very brief. All he mentioned was that things weren't working out between us and something about growing apart. OW, when I found out you were pregnant, he said you were trying to trap him with the baby. OP, our child was planned, actually, and it was his idea to begin with. It's clear as day he's a pathological liar. OW, is he back at your house? Or was that also one of his lies? OP, he came back, but we're not getting back together. OW, good for you. He's an a-hole. For the record, I'm done with him too. Relevant comments. How did OP feel after talking with the other woman? OP, thank you. I tried my best to be understanding and not get upset. This woman owes me nothing. I can't be mad at her. OP on if the other woman knew about the baby. She was with the husband for a year before OP found out. OP, she knew, but my guess is she really loved him and didn't care. Regardless, this is all on him. He was lying to both of us. I think she just wanted confirmation since we both know he lies about everything. If she chooses to take him back, that's on her. Now on to the next story. Story 11. Wife got mad when I started secretly packing our daughter American lunches because she was being bullied over her cultural food that she brought to school. My wife, Sarah, 36F, and I, 35M, have an 11-year-old daughter named Lily. Lily had begun attending 6th grade in September, but this problem only recently became a major issue. Sarah is Indian and makes great dishes that the whole family enjoys and tend to pack these lunches for Lily as well. She typically packs Lily rice with dal in a container or something similar, which she had no issues with in elementary school. However, recently Lily came sobbing to her mom and I about the lunches. The kids at school had been making fun of her food, which absolutely made my heart break. I had struggled with the same thing at her age. I come from a Chinese family and would always take homemade food to school too. And when I asked her if she wanted us to report the problem, she begged us not to so she wouldn't be called a snitch or worse. When Sarah heard this, She simply contacted the principal, which I didn't want to resort to at first, and left the issue telling Lily she wouldn't be buying school lunch and to just ignore the other kids. The same problem occurred every day. Lily would be coming home feeling extremely upset, and there were even times Sarah would yell at Lily for not even touching her school lunch. We both had talks with Lily about her culture and how she should be proud. We have contacted the schools, but the school is ignorant of the issue. They simply had a talk with the parents and ended it there, and Lily isn't budging. I don't want her to starve because so many days she doesn't even eat her lunch. I know how brutal middle schoolers can be, and I didn't want Lily to feel insecure or upset, even if it meant making her take other lunches, but Sarah refuses to make other lunches. I began to make other lunches for Lily, like sandwiches or sometimes mac and cheese, so she'd feel more comfortable eating it in school in front of her classmates. As a final resort, when nothing else worked, I would take Lily's lunch for myself at work and pack her own lunch early in the morning, which she finished and seemed happier when coming home daily after. However, this only worked for about 2 weeks until Sarah found out and was infuriated. She said I was denying Lily her culture and she needed to learn to stop being insulted by other kids, telling me I'm raising Lily to get whatever she wants. Is Sarah right? Idea edit. Bringing this post and topic up tonight. I'll post an update when I can. Hopefully this is enough to convince Sarah. If not, I'll do what other comments said and just keep packing Lily's lunch or let her pick. Comments where OP has replied. Commenter, NTA. You don't have to use every single meal to celebrate your culture. Getting the kid to eat something is way more important. Oop, 100%. She's been eating her lunches since I switched them out. Sarah, I think Sarah's heart is in the right place. I'm talking to her soon, but otherwise I agree she's not exactly going about it in the right way. We can preserve her culture in other ways at home. Update 1. Okay, so I'll start by saying thank you for all the comments. A lot of people agreed with me. Some told me I should let Lily pick her lunch. I showed the post to Sarah, and it took about an hour or so. But we both sat down and talked with Lily on where she wants to go from here, and she said she liked the lunches I packed her, etc. However, we also figured out this bullying had been going on for longer than just 2 to 3 weeks. So Sarah agreed to let Lily take whatever lunch she wanted on the condition that she'd eat homemade food, Chinese or Indian, for dinner/breakfast still, and we all agreed. So Sarah got her part in it. As for the school, since the principal hardly did anything, we reached out to the school board superintendent and are still waiting for a response. I think this solved the issue better too, and when we get a response, I'll post a second update. Thank you for the advice. Update 2. So I'm sorry for taking so long to update, but we managed to resolve everything. The superintendent and school board were actually incredibly helpful and got back to us within 2 days to schedule a meeting about this. I don't want to go too much into detail, but there were 2 specific girls who played a big role in the bullying. I believe one of them got detention for some time and another got suspended because she'd done this before. Their parents were also super apologetic and supportive of Lily and didn't try to get in the way of the consequences, which really was nice. As for Lily, she is doing much better and is definitely more content and happier when she comes home from school. Thank you. Now on to the next story. Story 12. My brother's fiancé excluded me from their wedding. My family has long known of my sexuality. I came out of my teens, and everyone has been fully supportive of me. I couldn't have asked for better people around me. My brother and his fiancée are getting married, and I was one of the first people they invited. I was really happy for them, had a gift picked out, and everything. We were all so excited. Today, my brother sent me a text completely out of the blue, informing me that as much as he wants me at his wedding, he doesn't think it's a good idea that I come. When I asked why, he told me that his fiancée can't allow a sinner at the reception, her words, and doesn't agree with homosexuality, which absolutely shocked me to hear. She always seemed supportive of me. I honestly never felt an ounce of hatred from her prior to this. Apparently, she can't see past my sexuality and has always pretended to be okay with it to not make things awkward at family functions. I also learned that most of her family are in agreement with this. I knew they were religious, but not like this. The more details I learned, the more sick to my stomach I felt. I loved her like a sister, and I always thought she cared about me too. Part of me feels like this is a bad dream because it just doesn't feel real. I called my brother to discuss this further, and I just broke down. I had so many questions I couldn't figure out how to ask. He tried to comfort me. I got the sense he didn't agree with this at all, but is being forced to do it by his fiancée. I was in such a state of upset that I then called my parents to explain the situation, and I couldn't stop crying. I felt so hurt and betrayed by both my brother and his fiancée. My father said if I'm not allowed to go, he's pulling out of the wedding entirely, and my mother was in agreement. I feel like I'm breaking up the family, and I hate myself for it. I just can't understand or comprehend this. My brother and I have been so incredibly close for all of our lives. He's been my #1 supporter. We have always been there for each other. I was so excited to be there for his special day. Now I just feel so depressed and embarrassed. I've rarely had trouble accepting myself, but this time it's really hitting me. I never chose my sexuality. I've always been this way. This hurts. I don't know what to do anymore. Update. The post blew up, and so many of you sent your well wishes and some really comforting advice, so I want to thank all of you. This is an amazing community. I felt so alone in that moment, reconsidering my entire life, thinking about who has really been there for me. It was the first time in a very long time that I felt shame about something I can't control. I've moved past that and searched for answers and clarity regarding the situation. I felt I was responsible for breaking up the family, but you guys assured me that it was really my brother and his fiancée that were breaking up the family. The more I thought about this, the more I realized it was true. My brother did have a say over his special day, too. Many of you said that my brother was acting spineless for not defending me and should have had my back from the beginning. After my initial sadness wore off, I completely agreed with this, and it hurt to know that anything else mattered more than us, his blood family. To me, family comes first, and my brother put his fiancée ahead of us. We organized to have a family meeting in person. My parents, my brother, and I. The fiancée was not invited. Ironic, because it wasn't her place. She made her position in this very clear. She made my brother choose between us. I haven't had any contact with her since I found out about this through my brother. She has shown who she really is. I've seen enough. I never want to speak to her again. We all arrived at the family meeting. The mood was tense and uncomfortable at first. I didn't know what to expect. To be honest, I just hoped we could talk some sense into my brother. I hoped my brother would see what was happening and we could change his mind. My parents started off by reiterating that if for any reason I am excluded from the wedding, they would not be attending in support of me. They also scolded my brother for not defending me and said he shouldn't be marrying this girl after seeing her true colors. My brother said he wanted to defend me, but felt trapped in the commitment of marriage. He thought his fiancée would come around to accepting me and was trying to change her mind. Apparently, it was even a surprise to him that came about a few months ago. They had been fighting about it for those months, but he didn't want to involve me in it, and he eventually convinced her to invite me. He said the reason for the uninvite was, in the end, the fiancée put her foot down saying, "It's my big day. I don't have to have anyone there that conflicts with my personal beliefs. My family shouldn't have to be uncomfortable at my wedding," and threatened to actually call off the wedding herself multiple times. To which I said to my brother, it's his wedding too, and he should have a say, to which he agreed. My parents described the move as completely out of character. I agreed. My parents then chimed in, reminding my brother of how isolated he was becoming and would continue to be at the hands of this woman. My brother eventually came to the conclusion that he's going to call off both the wedding and his relationship. He doesn't see a future with her. He said he felt controlled by her for a long time on various things, even unrelated to this. He couldn't have an opinion on anything. He couldn't make decisions without her approval. She was the mastermind behind anything and everything in their lives. He also felt that if they were to have children, they wouldn't grow up in a loving or accepting environment under his fiancée. He felt this wasn't something he wanted any part in anymore. The fiancé's family was also very instrumental in all of this. We found out they were contributing financially to this wedding and were also being very controlling on all aspects. My brother assured me that he loves and cares about me more than anything, that this will never happen again. He explained how even though it was also his wedding, he felt powerless between his fiancée and her family making all of the decisions and the leverage they had in their financial commitment. The religious aspect also played its part, though, as many of you pointed out, if it was really about the concept of sin, that guest list would be empty. It was very much a manipulative, calculated move with hatred and bigotry written all over it. I was overcome by emotions at this point. I was relieved, but also stunned this ever happened. There was a point where I thought I would lose my only brother, that he and his wife-to-be would run off and abandon all of us, his blood family. I sensed some sadness in my brother. He felt he let me down and was extremely remorseful. My brother hugged me and told me he loves me more than anything and that he's sorry. We just hugged for a couple of minutes, and I was thinking about our childhood and how he really was always there for me. He defended me when I was there and when I wasn't. He did more than I could ever ask or expect. He absolutely appeared spineless. He gave into the trap instead of fighting for what was right. But I didn't want to hold it against him forever. Everyone makes mistakes. His genuine expressed remorse made it absolutely clear to me that I want to forgive him and hold him to his promise. I want him in my life. I don't want to lose him. I felt that the conversation we had was really good, and we cleared everything up. He's now in the process of calling off the wedding and his relationship. I'm going to be there for him to support him through this. It hasn't been easy for him either. He's lost his relationship of 6 years, who was at one point the love of his life. He's definitely heartbroken, but was looking out for me first. As for the fiancée, I think she has tremendous hatred in her evil heart. She's a cold person. For years, she pretended to be okay with me and support me, but when it really came time, she showed who she really is. She showed her dark, distorted view of gay people. It was very much a targeted attack. We aren't these evil people. We're normal people who deserve to be treated the exact same way as everyone else. Personally, I've been having a really hard time with religion. I hate the concept of hating us and hiding behind it to absolve blatant bigotry. As for me, I'm feeling in a better headspace now. I definitely feel the support and love around me. I constantly remind myself of how lucky I am, especially for my parents. They've been nothing short of the best. I showed them some of your appreciative comments in my previous post, and it really made their day to see your loving words. I want to thank all of you for all of the support, reassurance, and kind messages you've sent my way. It helped me feel like I wasn't alone. It gave me hope. It talked sense into me. I'm lucky to have the people I do in my life, and I'm very relieved it had a positive ending. Take care. Thank you all again. Now on to the next story. Story 13. Stepmom repeatedly lied and refused to take me and my sister home until my mom threatened to call the cops. This happened in 2009 when I was 15 and my sister was 11. I honestly don't remember it well. I had to call my mother to fill me in on some details, and it helped a little. My parents got divorced when I was 10. My mother got primary custody, but we stayed with my father for about 3 days a week, sometimes more. They took turns celebrating the holidays with us. We'd spend them with one parent in 1 year and with the other one the next. In March 2009, my father and his then-girlfriend Molly broke up after he confessed to cheating with a woman that eventually became SM years later. I found out that affair had been going on for almost 2 years by the time he told Molly. He introduced SM to us in May on my birthday, actually, and they almost immediately announced their engagement. From that moment, she started trying to force us all to be a happy, blended family, which usually meant forcing us to do everything she or sometimes my stepbrother wanted and pretending my mom wasn't in the picture. SM and my dad started pushing her to leave us with them a lot more often than my parents had previously agreed, but she thankfully wouldn't budge. We started getting ready for the holidays in November, and SM started talking about a ski resort hotel. I don't know, it was 14 years ago that she wanted to visit with us. It was a 3-hour car drive from where we lived and was clearly more suited for couples, younger children, or the elderly. Neither me nor my sister actually wanted to go, but before we could say that, SM asked us when we'd be done with school so that she could book it for a 2-week trip during our winter break. I was happy to be the one to break it to her. We'd spent Christmas and New Year's Day with my father and Molly the year before, so it was my mom's turn to have us. My father and SM called my mother dozens of times to try to convince her to let them take us, insisting that SM was excited to spend Christmas with us and that the previous year's holidays didn't count because we'd spent them with Molly. My mom said no, as she'd already made plans, and the subject was dropped for a few weeks. Then, on our last day of school before winter break, SM picked me and my sister up from our schools. That was fine. We were supposed to spend a couple days with my father before the holidays. What wasn't fine was that the moment we got into her car, SM said, "We're going to the ski resort." Surprise! She proceeded to tell us that they'd already packed our bags for us and Dad would meet us there. I asked if my mom knew about this, and she said, "Sure," but I knew that was a lie. I also didn't believe her when she said we'd only be there for a couple of days and would be back before Christmas. I figured they booked the 2-week stay they wanted and would probably guilt-trip us both into staying once their couple of days were up. I was terrified. I didn't have a phone. My mom thought I was still too young to have one. Didn't trust SM, and I could see my sister was even more scared. I told SM we didn't want to go. She said, "Fine, let's just pick stepbrother up from school." We picked him up from school. SM said, "Okay, now let's go to the resort." I said again that we didn't want to go. She said, "Fine, let's just find a gas station and fill up." That pattern repeated itself about 6 times over the next hour. Every time I said we didn't want to go, SM would make up an excuse and pretend to forget my plea. As we were about to leave town, my dad called SM. I heard them fight for a few minutes about something, and then she hung up. Stepbrother asked her what happened, but she didn't answer. Then she said, "I'm taking you kids to your mom's." She turned the car around and took us home. When we got there, my mom pulled us out of the car and screamed at SM to leave, which she did. My mom was hugging us and bawling as if she hadn't seen us in years. She didn't tell me the full story until a few days later. Basically, my mom called my dad in a panic because he'd never told her we'd gotten home, which he always did whenever he picked us up from school. He was hoping she wouldn't call until we were already at the resort. My father knew that lying would do more harm than good, so he told her their plans. He tried to spin it around as something my sister wanted, but my mother didn't buy it. She told him that if SM didn't take us back to her place, she'd call the police. My father and SM took my stepbrother to the resort for a few months after. They bragged about all the fun they had and all the things me and my sister had missed. Stepbrother later confided in me that he actually hated it. He barely saw his mom while they were there, and he spent Christmas mostly alone in their room. SM called us both selfish for trying to ruin their holidays. My sister actually felt guilty for a while, and I had to reassure her. My mom didn't call the cops or press charges at the time. She didn't know if what SM did would qualify as a crime or if they'd actually help. She also feared that would ruin our relationship with my father, with whom she was still trying to stay on amicable terms. Years later, she told me she regretted not calling anyone, and that's the story of how I got my first phone. For some reason, I really hate this story so much that I avoid talking about it. This text was actually on my drafts for almost a week. It's far from the worst thing SM has ever done, but it still pisses me off. I admit that writing it all down did help a little, though. What an a-hole, and your dad wasn't any better. How's your relationship with him now? We have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for listening. If it made you think, feel, or just escape for a while, smash that like and subscribe so you never miss our future stories. See you next time.